Hello and welcome to the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sim Series. This is the fourth round of our Solo Endurance Cup, and today we are here at the historic Italian circuit of Imola. I'm Gareth Rumpfer. I'm wearing the biggest and pinkest shirt that you've ever seen, and I am joined today by Julian Strasser. How are you, Julian?
Hello, thanks, I'm fine, and I'm wearing today the best Bentley cap ever.
Nice. Keeping the caps going. We've always got to have one of us in a cap. Hello everybody, thank you all for joining us today as we're getting back to a series that we've been running for a long time. This series was started well in the midst of last year, before the new Ferrari or the new BMW were added to the game, so you won't be seeing either of those here today. But we did change one of the tracks to Imola as soon as it was announced, because we wanted to give people a run around here. And actually, people have been doing a lot of running, to the point where I've even heard people say they're tired of Imola because they've been doing it so much. How are your feelings on Imola, Julian?
Imola is a classic track, you cannot deny that, and of course it's going to be a very favorable track for many different series to run on here. So I feel with the people who say that it's just been too much for them, too many different series running there. However, it's still a track that is going to lead to close racing and hopefully some very interesting scenarios over the 2.5 hours we're going to see today.
Absolutely. You've got the two intro chicanes, which we're going to see a lot of action into, especially that first chicane. The Tosa hairpin, which can always be exciting. Everyone's favourite Acqua Minerale. Everyone's least favourite Variante Alta, the awful chicane near the end, which is horrible and I hate it. And then the Rivazza, the nice two left-handers at the end of the corner. A fantastic little track. Very thin, very difficult to overtake, but we've got an endurance race on our hands, obviously, here. 2 hours and 24 minutes. Fantastic format that I've really enjoyed. And we have multi-class racing. For those of you who haven't seen it as much, we've got two classes of GT4s, the AMs and the Pros, as well as three classes of GT3s, Pro, AM and Silver. Obviously red, silver and white badges, white for Pro, red for AM, with those little blue triangles in there if they are GT4. Having a quick look at the standings of this event so far, it's obviously... we haven't done this for a while, so it's even a good catch-up for us. Here we go. We have Steve Hughes is leading it so far in the Bentley. This is really the tournament where Steve started to show his pace. Steve, of course, won the most recent championship series and has put himself into the band category, and so has Ryan Ware. You can see behind him, who is the leader of the Pro GT4s. Julio Rodriguez leading the AM GT4s in third there. Silver split led by Dan, I believe. You can look at these individually. So Shane Thomas ducking out, unfortunately. One of the problems with running this is such a long event, long series, is you will get these sort of duck outs. But we have some great drivers in it still. Steve Hughes, Mika Maninka, Leonard Schungel, Nicholas Alvarado, Maciej Markowski and Coleman Corkery. Just to name a few. Silver, Dan Terry is leading from Chris Meadows and Justin Clerk. So we're going to see an interesting fight between those guys. We get to see a lot of old cars here as well, like Kaiser Ansky in the Lexus. You know, people picked their cars for this so long ago that many of them aren't driving these anymore. GT4, we have Ryan Ware leading, Florian Lupiaz, Rodrigo Iverson, and Ashley Bloomfield. A really strong GT4 field. With some people who don't always drive the GT4s, so it's going to be interesting to see them back into it. And then a smaller GT4 AM, probably our smallest field, with Julio Rodriguez, Daniel Bradford, Zach Morgan, Adam Rayner, and Rob Bedford there coming in. So this is the penultimate round, obviously, so not a huge amount of time left, but as you can see, a lot of the points are reasonably close, not a huge amount of points given out each race in this series. But are there anyone, Julian, who you are interested in seeing and are hoping to do well?
Well, This is a clear-cut question. I want to see my fellow Bentley boy, Steve Hughes, do well. Of course, he's coming today with a 10-second success penalty, which is because he's won last time around.
Yep, absolutely. Winner of every class getting that penalty.
Yeah. So he's going to have to fight in order to get at least a 10-second lead throughout the whole race in order to stay ahead.
Yeah, I want to give a good shout out to some of my GT4 boys. I want to see Daniel Bradford doing well in the Chevrolet Camaro, that chunky little GT4 that we all love to see. And then Adam Raynor, hopefully he can have a decent time in the little Ginetta in the amateur split. And as we are running down to the end of the practice session, I want to bring you guys through a few other events that we're doing at ACCSS just before we move on. Exclamation mark timings will show you our timings page so you can keep track of people throughout the race. It won't be quite up yet, but I'll set that up in a second. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of action. It's going to be a lot of hours and a lot of people to keep up with. So if we don't keep track of everyone, you can have a quick look there. The next event will be, it's not obviously our British GT launch party, but we will have a 1 hour of Donington literally later today. So we want to keep reminding you all to go sign up for that. We're going to have obviously a lot of British GT events, both GT3, GT4 and multi-class as today's event is. So we're going to hopefully be running a lot of community events. Next week is our sort of week off. So it'll mainly be evaluation races, and then we're going to try and fit in some community races in there. We are going to be doing more of these. These are not the exact events. These are our last set of events, but we are once again doing a GT3 and a GT4 event on the official SGP page on SGP. Head up there and there's a load of great community events going on there from a ton of different communities, including Leonard Shungle's Skip Barber Daily and Race Department's Audi TT Cup. Silverstone 6, I believe that qualifying is coming to an end very shortly for the Silverstone 6 hour. It might even be today. So we're going to have the main grid locked in for that, and it's just going to be up to Superpole to see who goes where. BTCC Super Tourers has been a great success so far. We've been having a really good time with that series, and yeah, we're going to have more events of that, so keep looking forward to that. I think in 2 weeks on Friday is the next event. It is at the Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya MotoGP circuit, so without the last chicane, to get a bit more variety, because obviously we always do the last chicane in ACC. We had 90s DTM. This was the Friday race that's just gone, but we're going to do more because it was great fun. I really love those cars, so that will be, we'll probably do another DTM race on a Tuesday coming up soon. And then, as always, as has been put in the chat, exclamation mark sign up if any of this looks interesting to you and you want to join us on track for any future action. Evaluation races going to be going on regularly in order to get yourself a position in the next championship series. And the next championship series will be starting in 3 or so weeks. So with all of the housekeeping out the way, we have finished free practice and we are going to go into game for qualifying. So we have, as always, split qualifying, and we're going to see GT4s out first. To hit drive there.
The split qualifying is always just a simple way in order to not have as many impeachments on other people's laps.
Yeah.
Of course, the GT3s being quite a bit quicker than the GT4s around any track, so
yeah,
they cannot get in each other's way.
It's a good job of in a reasonably large grid like this of giving people space on the track. And the most important thing is what Julian said there, that having the different classes, it's much nicer to make sure we're getting these out. And Daniel Durrett in the GT4 Audi is the first driver out on the field today. A very fast driver, but someone who can be a little bit inconsistent, sometimes pushes too hard. So going to be very interesting. Hopefully he does well over this long event. And coming around the end of the lap, we're going to obviously do our customary take a drive with these guys. As you can see, all the GT4s coming out there. Not a huge amount in the server, unfortunately. But GT4 is always, sadly, a bit less popular than others. And there are more GT4s still in the pits who are just coming out a little bit late. So here we go. Coming around the last few corners to go on board with Daniel Durrett in the Audi GT4, start his lap. An interesting straight because it's obviously not very straight. The Variante Bassa, which I didn't actually know there. There's obviously the MotoGP chicane to the left as we come down towards the first corner. The chicane put in after Senna's death, the Variante Tamburello. Lots of braking into here. Much slower chicane than the next one, hitting the curbs pretty heavily. We're definitely going to see a few people lose it on the sausages in these chicanes throughout the day. Into the slower chicane now, the Variante Villeneuve, or the faster chicane, I mean. You can really keep quite a lot of speed up and clip the chicanes, push wide on this exit, use a lot of curb there. And then immediately into Tosa, you've got a sort of deceptively long, like sweeping chicane from the way you take it, because you go in sort of quite wide and really swing round up to Piratella, which is just a simple brake and turn in curve, but it's quite long on the exit, quite a lot of curb you can take there on the exit. Down to Acqua Minerale, brake a little bit, throw yourself in, brake a little bit again, throw yourself in, but the first time you're going downhill, the second time you're going uphill. Really exciting bit of racetrack there, and we'll see a lot of people going wide throughout there, I am sure, as we come up to the Variante Alta, which is this awful, super tight chicane that's coming over a crest. Hard to spot your braking point, and then you go really wide on the exit, coming down this fast section towards the Ravazza corners at the end. Downhill braking, so you got to be pretty safe on that. And then try to carry as much speed through the second corner as possible, because this is the one that leads you out onto the straight to set your lap. And overall, I think a reasonably clean lap there coming out from Daniel Durrett on his first time.
Yeah, it was a nice lap. It was definitely a good banker. It was not invalidated, 153.3. We are going to see better laps than that, definitely, in the GT4s, but a nice banker nonetheless, as Menno Derrida immediately nullifies it with a 53.06.
Yeah, in the Aston Martin, a good improvement there as we get a bank lap set from Adam Reynor. A couple of slower laps obviously going to be coming in as people set up.
Quick notes on the Ginetta driven by Reina today. It tops out at on the not so straight.
Yeah, the Ginetta doesn't have the power to put down on those longer straights, and even on those not so longer straights, it can get to struggling. But it should be a decent car for this track overall, because a lot of it is quite tight and twisty, and at the low revs, he can still have a decent bit of grunt. So hopefully, he's going to be enjoying himself. And we'll see some of the more grunty cars like the Mercedes and the BMW and the Chevy coming along, and see how they can compare as well. Talking to the Chevy, let's have a look at Daniel Bradford in his big blue Chevy. Love this car.
It's not, well, I wanted to say it's not a beautiful car. It is it is an aggressive looking car,
Yes.
definitely. And I love driving it myself. It drives so aggressive, especially on the back end. It's very tail happy. So it is a challenge keeping it between the white lines, and it's going to be interesting to see how good Bradford can manage that today.
Absolutely. Another car that's going to be interesting to see is the BMW, which Jose Martins has just put up into 4th position in the 808 BMW. This car, maybe with some setup work, could be a lot nicer, but it's a very understeery car. Very, I find tricky in these sort of tight, twisty bits that there is a lot of at Imola. And talk about that, Victor Janber just it slightly improves on that BMW's time in his own BMW, the number 32. That's a 133 flat there from Victor Janber, very close to joining our top 3 drivers in the 152s. Ryan Ware with a 152.1 at the top of the table. We did always used to call him the GT4 King when these cars first came out. And, seems like he's still enjoying them to this day and putting in some good times.
Yeah, Ware is a good driver with very many different cars. He's likely not. He's not a one-hit wonder. Definitely, he's jack of all trades rather. And we see him lots of time in different races in AC, doing very well with many different cars, from Formula to DTM kind of cars. So he's a very driver with high variability in skill with different cars. Lovely to see him here doing well in the GT4s as well.
Absolutely, just came second in the pro split of our championship series in the Honda GT3. So showing that he doesn't just have one fiddle to his bow there. It's always good to see. Slightly up on his time evens. He and Menno de Ridder have both dipped into the 151s, which is very impressive. 151.5 as well. So Ryan Ware getting like a whole half of a second improvement and still looking like he could make some more happen. Victor Janber about to cross the line with a big improvement as well, hopping up into the 152s himself in a low 152 at that. Very good job from Victor Janber, who I must shout out as well. Probably has the best custom skin on the grid. I'm a big fan of his custom skims. Him and his friend, who are both in a team together, always make these lovely custom liveries for their cars.
Slight correction: the Victor Janber makes his skins all alone, but
he makes them for his teammate. Then, yeah,
he makes them so well because he, from a job perspective, he is a graphics designer. So
makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Got those ACCS logos on there as well, which is great to see. Even has the endurance red on there, so you know the man's got his details down. Fantastic stuff. And a little bit wide there. I'm not sure. That is totally fine. A lot of these curbs you can push really far onto, so being really aggressive in these, and is not quite gaining time, but is right on the bubble. So at any point here could make a little bit of an improvement. Quite a few of our drivers lower down the order are making improvements, which is good to see. All of our drivers who aren't really on the pace right now, all in the green delta. So hopefully we'll see it even closer near the end of the race. And look at this as well. Pro and Am. Clean split. Beautiful to see. Daniel Bradford right now in the Camaro is leading the AMs so far and has a pretty big improvement on his time as well. Coming through Ravazza. See if he can keep this. Yeah. And he might ruin that clean split. Or no, it's pretty close. I think he might just be behind Jose Martinez in the other, or in the second of the BMWs. 153.6, so just 0.2 behind Jose Martins. Good lap there from Daniel Bradford, keeping right up with the pros there.
It's nice seeing the splits are working. However, currently still,
yeah,
we have the 5 pros in front and then the 4 AMs in the back. But Daniel Bradford is definitely looking to challenge some pros with his time, and maybe then even later in the race for overall track position.
Yeah, got some shout outs from Andrew Hassan, a long-time ACCSS member, for Ryan Ware's livery, which is also a fantastic livery, black and red, really nice color choice. Also very ACCSS branded, so lovely to see that. Running the ACCSS red and even the stripes on the back of it. Very in brand, good to see.
Yeah, of course. This championship still allows custom liveries.
Yeah. This was our first championship to allow custom liveries. It was where we did all of the original testing to make sure it worked. And it was after doing a few rounds of this that we started to realize that it really doesn't work. And unfortunately, the next Solo Endurance Cup that we have, the final round of this championship, will be the last event we do with custom liveries because of some of the issues we've been having. And on that note, there will be no instant replays today because that is one of the problems with running custom liveries, as we are still watching Ryan Ware, who is actually, we happen to talk about him because Andrew mentioned his livery, but he is improving his time still, which is really impressive. Him and Daniel Durrett right now, both on laps which could improve their time. Daniel Durrett, I believe, just about to cross the finishing line, up 4 attempts and into 3rd position, putting the Audi ahead of the BMWs as Ryan Ware is coming around to finish. 1:51.5, and he's actually made up time through Ravazza. Really nice. He's right on the verge of getting 3 tenths of improvement.
It's a lovely exit there onto the straight. That is true.
1:51.3. Really good work. Next car looking to improve is Daniel Bradford. One minute left of qualifying for these GT4s, so not long now to set their last laps before we get the main field coming out, which is going to be a lot messier, obviously, with everyone out there. And the GT3 is going to have to make sure to set a time, because obviously in these multi-class races, that is even more of a problem if you don't, because you'll be starting behind the GT4s, which no one wants to do, as Daniel Bradford is coming across the line. Nice 2 tenths improvement, but not going to win him a place. Keeping at the head of the GT4 AM. Pushing his advantage slightly further.
And he still also has the advantage of still being able to do a lap, which he breaks off here.
Julio Rodriguez in the Mercedes. Haven't looked much at him right now, but he's coming through to set an improvement to his lap as well. Needs a little bit more of an improvement to be able to gain a position over Adam Raynor, who is 2nd place in the GT4 AMs right now in his Ginetta.
It's currently looking well. Julio Rodriguez being almost a second up on his time, and he needs 6 tenths. So
yeah, he's gained a lot in that chicane. That was a really good run through there, and through Ravazza, he's still gaining more time. Really gained confidence this last year. Now is over the second that you were talking about. And is going to come across with a huge improvement. Almost into the 1:53s, I think. 1:53.9. He just pushes it into there. Really good late lap coming out there from Julio Rodriguez as he dives off. And you can see the GT3s bursting out of the gates. What is the number of the first GT3 out there? Is it Steve Hughes? Has he made the jump out? He has. To Steve Hughes in a South African livery. M Sport. I believe this is an in-game livery now.
I think indeed it is, yes.
Yeah, this is one of the new ones, I believe. Really nice looking livery. Especially, I'm a big fan of this as an improvement for Steve Hughes because he always drove the same boring default Bentley livery, which I always hated him for. But now he's got himself in a pretty car. I'm very glad to see it. Hopefully he sticks with this as he comes through the last few corners. And now we're going to get to see how a GT3 takes this historic Italian track as he comes to the not straight. Tries to keep as little turn input in as possible, of course. Running down to Tamburello. Got a car just coming out the pits, but hopefully that car will stay out of his way, taking a lot of curb as you can in the Bentley. Big, tough car.
It's pretty much only the Bentley and the AMG that can take that much of a curb.
Absolutely. Into Villeneuve, keeping as much speed as possible, especially through the second point, because he's going to want to run wide. Obviously, a little bit coming off more than he needed to there, it being a banker lap, but coming through Tosa, getting a good exit from there. Going to be great to see how fast these cars specifically go through Aqua Minerale. Really exciting run through there, really fun to do. Nice out on the curb using all of the track, hitting the apexes perfectly and then riding just up until the sausage curb, but not quite pushing onto them. Very good job there. And then into the chicane, big chunks of curb. This is where anyone in the Ferrari is going to be complaining about not being able to take that much curb. And then down to Ravazza. Nice stable car, the Bentley, so shouldn't have too much trouble in the braking down here. Gets a good amount on the curb. Maybe rotates a little bit too much there rather than losing the outside curb as much as he could, but a good run there. And this is going to set our initial time for the GT3s. And he is a 1:42.4. With Corkery coming over the line just after him on a 1:42.3.
That's a strong banker lap, I have to say. This definitely a good start for Corkery, Hughes, and Venner, who's just slotted in behind them.
Absolutely, we'll see the run down now. We have our first AM just coming off the line. Eric Strom in the Honda, followed by Luerk in the Porsche, and Dagner in another Porsche. We have obviously the two silvers of Paul Gratix and Dan Terry, who so far have set their laps. Everyone improving their times so far. Those tyres coming up to temps, getting their pressures spot on, and we're going to see bounds of improvement, so these times are absolutely not going to stay like this. Dan Terry, in fact, in the ACCSS Aston Martin, just second up on his time, so he definitely was one who went for a full-on safety banker lap.
Nothing wrong with that. After all, like you've mentioned, it's important to start in front of the GT4s.
I'm a big fan of taking a nice slow banker lap. Your temps, your pressures, they're not going to be right on the first run anyway, so why even try to make it a good run? Just get out there, get something so that you don't end up at the back. It's the worst feeling when you get to the end of a qualifying session and you still haven't set a lap at all, and you end up, your last chance to set a good lap, you're just setting a banker to avoid being behind the GT3s. And Dan Terry has got himself a good start already. I put himself on a 1:43.8, up in 6th position so far, with Martin Roundtree right now leading the AMs, and Steve Hughes taking over the lead of the pros from Corkery.
Is Steve Hughes one of the people who is here driving in his main car, rather to say, because for example Olli Venner driving here in the Audi normally also drives the Bentley, and I'm not so sure about Corkery, but I don't think he's driving the Aston normally either.
Absolutely, not a huge amount. Most of the people who are driving their main car are the sort of people who very often drive their main car. Nicholas Alvarado in the Aston Martin, Paul Gratix in the Ferrari. Andrew Hearn, I believe, is very often in that McLaren as well. Strom, big fan of the Honda, so not surprised to see him in that. Nicholas Alvarado having a little bit of a problem with traffic here. He's caught up behind the number 666 car of Andrew Hearn, and not sure if he was trying to overtake Hearn there. It looked like he was trying to overtake Hearn, and Hearn was trying to let him by, and they sort of had a little bit of, as the legend Murray Walker would say, mismal-communication error there, and have got themselves a little bit caught up, but hopefully Nicholas Alvarado will break away from these guys now, and we can stop having people holding each other up. Seeing the Lexus there behind. It's weird to say, but good to see a Lexus in here.
Also something weird to say, but it's good to have a Jag in here.
Absolutely.
Currently in P6, Ollie Henley, a very quick guy, trying his luck with the 2012 Jaguar.
Looking at his livery, he is running the antithetical liveries to what I was running. He's running blue, the most boring of color, and then he's got white on the base rather than matte black that I like. But it's good. It's a different. It's not bad. They fit together quite well. I'm a big fan of the Jag. Lovely car to see driving out there. Get some more variety out there. Lovely sound to hear. And Ollie Henley is showing how it can be driven well up into the top 10. And he's still improving on that time. So there is more to come from the big cat. We still have down at the bottom Jack Harvey in that Lexus, the last car not to have set a lap yet, and the lap he is on is valid, as we can see in the top left there. Oh, as we see a Ferrari taking the Alvarado line there. So that's all will Jack Harvey across the line. Never sure when people haven't set a line what the Delta is actually tracking against, so not sure exactly how good his time is, but
well,
we will see now.
It doesn't matter anyways, because it seems like he's invalidated.
Oh no. Did he invalidate it right at the end? He did. So. Oh, poor Jack Harvey. So we're going to have to keep a lookout for him again, as it's obviously getting dangerous now, still not having a lap time, as Benjamin Dagner comes across the line in the Swedish Porsche there. Very high up for the AMs. The class is not being as straight this time, but obviously these classes were made a long time ago when, and some of these drivers have improved a lot since then. So setting a good time, not enough to get an actual improvement in position, but he is the last of the drivers in the 42s. Paul Gratix 143.3, looking to try and break into the 142s. One of only 2 Ferraris, it seems, in the field today, which makes me very sad. Maciej Markowski getting up into 7th position, just ahead of Nicholas Norberg, so we have the 2 Lamborghinis together. White Lamborghini of Maciej, and the I need to look at Norberg actually, because Norberg said he's using, I think, a new livery. It's nice. I'm a fan. British GT pack coming with a lot of nice new liveries.
And he's using the red there as to signal his new car that he's driving now, because he switched over to the Ferrari in the championship.
Ah, yeah, he has been talking about a big fan of the Ferrari, so trying to pretend that he's in the other Italian sports car while he's still in this one. Oliver Henley now coming up to Tosa. This is the part where the Jag really struggles in some of these tighter corners. Got a big engine, some big chug there, which isn't going to stand him too well at Imola. He's making a good job of it still.
Surprisingly good job.
Yep, Corkery coming round to end his lap. He's going to have a pretty big improvement and might be able to jump ahead of Jack Harvey into third. Jack Harvey in the Lexus has finally set a time, which is good to see, as someone that fast would have perhaps caused some issues being stuck behind GT4s for the whole race. Andy Henley coming around to finish his lap with an improvement being made. He's right on the cusp of getting 4 tenths. And there's a couple of people only just ahead of him. So 4 tenths really could be a nice jump. And if he can get a little bit more time, he's very close to hitting 6th, but I'm not sure he's going to manage it. 7th position with a 142.9. He has become the 7th driver so far to hit the 142s. And he's done it in the Jag.
Strong showing, very strong showing here, putting him on top of the silver.
Maciej Markowski coming in to become, it looks like, the 8th driver to get across the 142s with a great improvement over his last time into 6th position with a 142.7.
I mean, he's driving the Lamborghini. There's got to be something he can do with a Italian car on an Italian track.
Yeah, they gotta perform at home for sure. Interesting to see a lot of Aston Martins quite far down the back. A lot of Aston Martins make sense for the time that this was created. The Aston Martin was by far the most popular car back then, other than the Porsche, but obviously being a rookie league, the Porsche's less likely to show up that much. This is now multiple BOPs ago that these cars were chosen, so slightly different field than we would see today. Chris Meadows with a big improvement here as well. We've been obviously watching his lap. Just behind there is a good friend Dan Terry. They find themselves fighting on track quite a lot, and even in qualifying right now, they're following each other around. Half a second improvement from Chris Meadows, which shoots him up to 12th position for 143.3. And we are coming across to the point where our drivers are going to be on their last possible lap as we head over to Martin Roundtree. Not in the Ferrari in this league, as he was in the Championship Series. He is driving this Aston Martin, and he's coming around to improve his time as well. If he can hold on to this, and he's actually improving on his time, it looks like he's going to become the 9th driver to come across in the 142s. Nathan Wells on a 143 flat, very close. But Martin Roundtree's just going to beat him there. Hops up into 8th position with a 142.8. Jesper Eriksson and Eric Strom, two of our drivers down the back of the field for the GT3s right now, both coming in with big improvements to their time. Eriksson's just about to cross the line in 16th. And will be hopping up a lot of time, very close to taking Dan Terry's position, but just not quite enough. And Eric Strom in the Swedish Honda losing a little bit of time in the last part of the lap, but is going to get an improvement once again. Improvement on his time, but not going to be an improvement on position. So coming to the end of qualifying, it looks like Andrew Hearn might be the last person to be able to set an improvement to the lap and a much better run through that chicane. A little bit timid on the exit, is going to lose some of the time he gained through there, but not all of it. He's on the cusp of being able to take that 13th position from Nicholas Norberg. Oh, but a bad run through Ravazza is going to spoil that dream.
Yeah, he was way too cautious there because he saw the positive time probably in the upper left-hand corner of his HUD, and then he just thought, I have to save this somehow into the finish line. And meanwhile, he was too cautious and losing all of the time.
And Michael was anything but cautious through there, made up a ton of time through reserves, and jumped Eric Strom into 18th position. So, great start to the evening. Strong qualifying from a lot of our drivers. Some of the drivers that we would normally expect are up in the top where we expect. And now that we have finished qualifying, we are going to head on over to a quick little advert to show some of you guys who might be new to ACCSS just what we get up to over here. Hello and welcome to anyone coming in from the host. It's good to see all of you guys there. Thank you, Wiskios. I hope I haven't butchered your name there. Yeah, we have just finished qualifying for the fourth and penultimate round of the Assetto Corsa Competizione SimSeries Solo Endurance Cup. This is going to be a 2.4-hour race around the fantastic historic circuit of Imola. We have two classes, 3 splits in our top class, 2 splits in our bottom class, and we can see obviously just from what we're looking at now that Benjamin Dagner and Martin Roundtree are a little bit out of position for their class, 7th and 8th in the AMs. This was obviously this series started last year, so obviously people have improved since then. Martin Roundtree and Benjamin Dagner, 2 of those, huge shout outs for their improvement. What are you excited about seeing in the standings so far, Julian? I can already spy one thing that you might be happy with.
Definitely. The lead of Steve Hughes in the beautiful Bentley is definitely something that I can always only be happy with.
Yeah, we've got the Bentley of Steve Hughes doing well, which is nice to see. We also have Ollie Henley, who is leading silver in the Jaguar. Great to see there. And then if we have a look in GT4, Ryan Ware is going to be leading that with Daniel Bradford in the Chevrolet Corvette. We will have a quick little rundown of the grid. So here is Steve Hughes. He is on pole next to Ollie Benner. And both in new liveries, I believe. I think that's a new livery for the Audi. Or is that a custom? It might be his custom. Oh, it's definitely his custom, actually. I've just spied
the
Dan Terry on the side. Good to see Dan Terry, our Lord and Saviour, making sure to remind our drivers not to have instance into turn 1. So he's just behind Hughes in the M Sport Bentley. Harvey in the Lexus behind him. Good to see the darker Lexus skin being chosen again, with Corkery leading the Aston Martins. Alvarado and Markowski, 2 ACCSS regulars, lining up on the next no. With then the 2 leaders of AM sitting here in front of the silver drivers. So we have Henley in the Jaguar, who's leading instead of Wells in the Aston Martin. Greatix in one of the only 2 Ferraris in this split, next to Chris Meadows, with Nicholas Norberg in his fake Ferrari Lamborghini just behind, next to Andrew Hearn. We then have Terry in his ACCSS Aston Martin next to Ericsson. Coleman and Luerk in that incredibly American livery coming up behind him, with the Swedish Honda of Eric Strom next to Griffel. Then we have Tyrrell, the last of the GT3s, lining up on the side of Ryan Ware in the Aston Martin GT4, De Riddler and Durrett coming behind him. Victor Janba in that fantastic new-liveried BMW next to the other BMW of Martins. And then Bradford, Rodriguez, Adam Raynor and David Wirch. For some reason, when I control F7, sometimes it doesn't actually control F7. I don't know why. But we're now watching our cars get away on the formation lap. And because the formation lap is not incredibly interesting to watch, we are going to head to some highlights. Welcome back to the Assessor Corsa Competizione Solo Endurance Cup. We are about to go green, coming up to the straight now. Steve Hughes on pole from Ollie Venner, Jack Harvey and Coleman Corkery in this Aston Martin, with Nicholas Alvarado and Maciej Markowski just behind them. Hopefully we're going to have a good start, as Jaguar seems to be going into the pits there. That is... I'm not sure what's happened there. Seems like he must have had some sort of technical issue, which is an absolute nightmare, seeing as he was on pole for Silver Split. As we're about to watch our top 6 come over the line and go green. There we go. We're finally off as we let all of our back markers get around. A great start from Maciej, who hasn't always been the best on the starts. Alvarado getting ran off the line in that Aston Martin, as often can happen. People trying to be a little bit cautious, as this is the first lap of a 2-hour race, but still some aggro going on. There's a little tap there given by the Aston Martin to the Lexus, pushing Maciej a little bit wide, but he's still kind of on the track. Nicholas Alvarado coming up behind, looking for a way past. He had a good run there, but there was 2 cars ahead of him. Tiny tap there between Maciej and that Lexus. Looks like a racing incident to me. Awkward little tap, but just gets the Lexus squirrely enough to throw off, and we head through the chicane at Tosa with our order intact. Steve Hughes leading from Ollie Venner, Coleman Corkery and Jack Harvey. Ignore that Ollie Henley is at the top of your list. He is obviously in the pits with some sort of issue, unfortunately, which is going to drop him right down the back, which is super sad to see. 2 mandatory pit stops, as you can see on your left, in this race, and 2 hours 22 on the timing screen at the top as we watch the front of our crowd get through the chicane. Going towards the back, Menno de Riddler has taken the lead of GT4 from Ryan Ware of Daniel Durrett there, and you can see in the background the 2 BMWs of Victor Janber and Jose Martins going at it as well. Overall, apart from that one tap with the Lexus though, it looks like no big incidents, which is good to see at the start of a big endurance race like this.
No, there was absolutely no big incidents. Beautiful starting by everyone. 1 or 2 love taps, but other than that, really nothing to worry about.
Ollie Venner's been taken by Coleman Corkery and is trying to go around the defensive line taken by the Aston, though, is going to mean he's going to have to go around the outside if he's going to, and that's not going to happen. Mache going really wide there, almost taking the Alvarado line there. Through the grass just ahead of the man Alvarado himself. And Ollie Venner still on the attack, try and get past this Aston Martin. In the GT4s, things are a little bit calmer, but Ryan Ware still looking like he's going to want to pounce on de Ridder if he makes any sort of mistake, and a little bit wide there almost was the opportunity he was looking for, but not quite enough. These 2 battles up the front, keeping us well, as now Nathan Wells just behind Martin Roundtree are leading Am and Silver respectively, as Dagner has fallen down the order a little bit, and obviously we saw the Jaguar of Henley pulling off into the pits. Big trainer guy, seeing even some flashing coming in there from Chris Meadows. Always aggro.
Trying to put off his, by the looks of the livery teammate.
Yeah.
It's a rub, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like, unfortunately, Ollie Venner has fallen off from Coleman Corkery, not quite able to keep up the fight right now. As our split, as we were expecting would happen, our split between the GT3s and GT4s is starting to increase. And whatever problem Ollie Henley had in the Jaguar, thankfully he's back out on track. It is obviously a 2-hour race, so he still has plenty of time to make up positions if he can be clean and consistent. So it'll be really interesting to see where he manages to get through overall in this race. So we've got some a couple of battles going on here at the front of GT4. Ryan Ware obviously on Menno de Ridder, and then Victor Janber is even putting pressure right behind them on Daniel Durrett. As we see ahead, the 750 Benjamin Dagner Porsche has made a mistake again and has fallen all the way down from second in GT3 Am right to the back of the pack. We do have a lot of Aston Martins in this. They were very popular at the time, and you could see there one of the Aston Martins making a move that was rare, diving down the inside into the hairpin. A really nice move. Wasn't expecting that, but good job by him. Dorita not trying to make it easy. He was looking there aggro as if he was going to try and make a move, but not a great line to go into Piratella. So those two are going to settle down. And where the GT4 King is going to try and assert his dominance over this field. If we have anything to go by on our past Solo Endurance Cup races, the GT4 Leaders Battle has always been a nice, exciting one.
Oh my goodness, this is fantastic!
Hey, Webby, thank you for the sub, my friend. So we're seeing the front of the GT3 field spreading out a little bit. So the battle's in...
It looks like Corkery is a bit catching up with Stihus now that he's no longer preoccupied with having to fend off Ollie Venner every corner. He can be on the hunt because obviously there is the 10-second successful penalty for Steve Hughes in place.
Yep, and obviously, right now, they're all setting very good times. 1:43s for both Steve and Corkery, with Venner just a little bit behind them on a 1:43.8 compared to 4. Maciej Markowski also setting a 1:44s, and he's actually set a better time than Venner now, so we might see him pulling up to compete with his rival back there as well. Ryan Ware is starting to pull away from the GT4 field a little bit. Behind them, we have a nice little freeway clump starting to come up, as the BMW of Victor Janba still pressuring Daniel Duret, and that's letting the other BMW of Jose Martins get into this fight as well. Going a little bit wide there is Victor Janba. Jose's going to be right on his back now. He's having to go defensive into Aqua Minerale.
This is not the way to do this. They're already well. They're still too aggressive. It's almost a 2.5-hour race. They are going to have some time to make up their positions. They don't have to go this aggressively this early.
Absolutely. You definitely could have seen some drivers giving away positions like that rather than taking the time loss, because you can see how far behind Victor Janba is to the Audi of Duret now. He might have even still been this far behind if he just let Martins past. He might have been a little bit closer even, because there's more than a car's width in there. He could easily follow that BMW round and gain an advantage over the average time of the race. But now these two have split up slightly as Daniel Duret is back onto chasing the Riddler, as Benjamin Dagner has pitted. So possibly hoping to get his one pit stop out of the way early, his first pit stop. Not necessarily a strategy that I would take, because obviously you're getting worried about getting behind the GT4s and Victor Janba going off-road there. He's going to lose his position, getting too much pressure behind from Jose Martins. And now he is going to have to follow anyway. So all that aggressive defending turned out to be for naught, unfortunately.
A quick follow-up about Benjamin Dagner. I believe that he is pitting for damage because he has been involved in an incident. Obviously, he was quite some place above all of the M's, where suddenly he was last of the GT3s.
Yeah. So hopefully this comes out well for him, and he won't have too much trouble passing the GT4s. We can see Ollie Henley, who obviously had to pit for some sort of issue on the formation lap, is now coming out, just starting to get close to catching up some of the GT4s. So hopefully he doesn't get too caught up in that. Daniel Duret side by side of Menno de Ridder here, starting to pressure him even more into the chicane, not able to make any sort of move stick there. Very hard to do there, and the defensive line from Dritter is enough. Daniel Duret getting a little bit wild coming out of that chicane as well, and now has the BMW of Jose Martins back on his tail. So these four are just accordioning out and in, and really aggressively fighting at the beginning of this very long race.
It seems like the Audi of Duret is not the most stably set up right now, which is going to be difficult to keep it between the white lines for the entire duration of the race then.
Absolutely. Perhaps sharing some of its temperament with the GT3 Audi. We see the GT3 field splitting up quite a lot here. Nathan Wells getting pressured a little bit by Daniel Terry. Oh, and Daniel Terry got a much better exit there as well, so he's going to get a nice drag up behind Nathan Wells here. There's a good opportunity to look for some sort of pass here at Ravazza, although the lines get pretty awkward for it. He definitely goes for it there, but gets on the brakes a bit harder than needed to make sure that he doesn't cause any collision there. He's going to have to follow him down the straight. Hopefully he didn't lose too much time in that little attempt there and can get a good run into Tamburello.
There's no obvious strengths or weaknesses between the two. Obviously, they have the same car, so it's only about the driver's skill. As you come very closer to touching, and then Terry has to go evasive and a bit off track in order to not crash into the back of Nathan Wells. Well done on being able to evade it, but it's lost him a bit of time.
Yep, good to see that they didn't come together, as down the back we have Nicholas Alvarado, who has also picked. So Nicholas Alvarado, Benjamin Dagner, two people to have picked very early, and Ollie Henley here making his way through the GT4s. He is a lap down, so not actually gaining any positions on this first run through the GT4s. Unfortunately, but is going to get through them anyway. And again, just it's a long race, so if he can set just consistent laps, he can make something up in the end. We've already seen one driver have to pit for damage, possibly two of Nicholas Alvarado. We're not sure how it ended up going there. And so there we see penalties coming in for Keith Greffel. And to my understanding, we do not have live stewarding this race. It's going to be post-race stewarding, so that is his success penalty coming in for winning the amateur split last race. So if you see, there's Steve Hughes, 10 seconds as well. So as you see these coming in, that is what the penalties are.
Indeed, there will not be live stewarding tonight, but there will be post-race stewarding. So incidents will be looked at after the race, and penalties will be given accordingly. Penalties afterwards.
And this is multi-class endurance racing here. I love it, because we can see in our screen right now 3 different laps of cars. We have the leader of GT3, Steve Hughes, about to, for the first time, lap the last GT4 driver, the Chevrolet there of Daniel Bradford. And then behind them is Nicholas Alvarado, who has already pit and therefore is already a lap down. So always love to see this variety of different cars on different laps, all coming past each other, all having to deal with each other. And as a big lover of these big multi-class races myself, I always find it really entertaining. Much more than, you know, sometimes you're sitting on your own out in a race, just running, and all this lapping and being lapped gives you something else to focus on, as well as just setting good laps. An extra challenge, as it were.
It's definitely a mental challenge to add to that. Always having to be on your toes. Is this person in front of you a lapped car, or is this a fight for position? There's so much to take in at every step of the way, which makes this type of endurance racing very interesting, multi-class.
Absolutely, as you see as well how the back markers can start to influence the racing. Porsche jumping off to the side there, but by no fault of his own has ended up holding up Coleman Corkery, who is now once again being pounced upon by Ollie Venner. Ollie Venner in the Audi right behind, has been setting good laps, 1:43.8 on his past lap, whereas Coleman being held up a bit into the 1:44s. Actually, Markowski now coming up to these back markers as well, and you can see that the Porsche has lost a position thanks to that little off that we saw him do there to Daniel Bradford, who is just ahead in that blue Chevrolet. And some of the front-running GT4s now as well. Still fighting here as we see Daniel Durrett going off, and both the BMWs are going to get past him, and right behind him you can see Ollie Henley in the Jaguar, who wants to get off, and just a little bit too much on the power there, and perhaps some overcorrection has sent the Audi flying off. Gets onto the other side of the track off the racing line, which is the right thing to do, and the leader jumps past him. So this is going to be an awkward time for Daniel Durrett now. He has a whole pack of GT3s coming up behind him, so when he really wants to get the hammer down and set some good laps to catch up to those ahead of him, he's not going to be able to do so. But The others ahead of him are going to be having their own scrap while they're still being overtaken by Ollie Henley. And hopefully for Daniel Durrett, when the rest of the GT3s come through to pass these two fighting BMWs, the battle going on here might hold them up a bit longer than he's being held up by just single BMWs. That is at least what he will be hoping.
The battle for the BMW is definitely a challenge to lap, simply because such two chunky big cars. They're almost bigger than all of the GT3 cars we have.
And the main goal, the main benefit the GT3s have in passing is their power as well, and the BMWs are the most powerful of the GT4s. So here we get Steve coming past them.
Powerful enough to fend off the GT3 of Steve Hughes.
No, the big old Bentley, a lot of room for engine in that car. It's going to get past them nicely. Nicholas Alvarado also coming up to lap these guys, and Nicholas Alvarado lapping these GT4s for position right now. So not really lapping them, I guess, but taking these GT4s for position because he is one of our few drivers to have already pit. GT3 and GT4, absolutely. Multi-class. This is the Assetto Corsa Competizione Solo Endurance Cup 2.4-hour races. Alvarado giving them a little flash just to know that he's coming through. As Ollie Henley is finally about to unlap himself on the last of the GT4s after having a technical issue at the start and having to start a lap down from the pits. Up the front is still Steve Hughes, Coleman Corkery and Ollie Venner in the lead, Maciej Markowski behind them, Martin Roundtree leading the amateurs just behind this group. And then Daniel Terry so far is leading silver there right behind Martin Roundtree. He's closed up a little bit again from his incident last time, but he's not going to want to make too much of a move. As much as he wants to get past Roundtree, he is still leading his class, and unless Roundtree is holding him down considerably in pace, it's not going to be worth it for him to make a move and risk perhaps going off and losing to Nathan Wells, who you can just see behind him with Nicholas Norberg, who are fighting Daniel in silver.
Let's just keep it calm. Maybe if he's being held up, he could go for an early pit stop.
Yeah.
That is one strategy, because you can definitely do. You have 2 mandatory pit stops, as we've already said, and you can definitely do 1 hour on the tank, as he's getting very close there to Martin Roundtree.
Yeah, easily you can do that as a strategy. And 145 free the last lap coming in from Dan Terry, with a 148 free the last lap coming in from Roundtree. So Dan clearly has the pace advantage and it's going to try and go around here, both drivers giving each other room as they come into the first Ravazza. But Roundtree is not letting it off easily. He's giving room, but only just enough, and he's trying to stay in there. But Daniel Terry has just got the better exit, having that wider line to be able to get through the corner. So he is now ahead as they roll into Tamburello. Yeah, this is the chance for DT to make it stick now. The chance for Roundtree to come back. He's looking for it, going for a big break, but he's not going to make the attempt. And Daniel Terry keeps the position for 5th overall.
Roundtree doesn't need to fight this. It is not his battle. He is severely in the lead of the AMS, and he's only fighting for his place in the AMS, really.
Yeah.
So he can just take a look at Dan Terry now, follow him, study his lines, and maybe find an even more of a safety margin by copying a bit of Dan Terry.
Exactly. The same logic goes for what we said about Dan Terry. If Roundtree is not being held up by Dan Terry, and it seems like Dan Terry is faster at the moment, so he wouldn't be, then there's no reason for him to try and make the move past. Dan Terry getting past Roundtree means that he can now make a break from Nathan Wells behind. Oh, as we see Victor Janber off on the side, and Victor Janba has a banged up BMW there at the front of his car, so he's clearly hit the wall. And that is really unfortunate. He's going to need to come in and pit for damage. Luckily, as Julian said, you can pit at this point and won't have to do an extra pit stop or worry about fuel. We might have to come back to some of our people who pit early, like Dagner and Alvarado, because it's possible they may have to. But Victor Janba, looks like the battle for the BMWs went sour, and he's been thrown into the wall. Ooh. Coming back onto the racing line there when the McLaren behind didn't expect it. It looks like Janba might be being a bit wiggly due to damage, perhaps. And the McLaren thought that he was being given space, but was not.
But he's not pitting for damage.
He's not, and that looks like a chunked up Bimmer. But this can happen. This happened to me in our Silverstone race very recently, where you get damage and you start going and you go, no, it feels okay. It feels I can deal with this. And then you go for that next lap, and it will be about now that he's starting to realise, if he is starting to realise, whether he wants to again put the indicators on there to let the McLaren past. So it's still possible that after this lap he will start to realise that his car is a bit more damaged than he thought and will come in. But maybe in the car he feels differently to how it looks. It certainly looks pretty bad. That has split up the GT4s at the front a little bit. Jose Martinez still reasonably close to Menno de Ridder, who is just ahead of him, setting very similar lap times as well as they start to get taken by this GT3 field. But Ryan Ware cruising out in the lead of GT4 so far on his own. Tenor Direct getting caught at a very awkward time. They're having to go very slow through the chicane to let those GT3s past. Some of the unluckiness that can happen in multi-class racing.
That is always the challenge for a car that is being lapped. Where do you let the other person overtake in order to not lose so much time yourself? In this case, I believe it was not the best of decisions. However, sometimes you gotta bite the bullet.
Yeah, sometimes the GT3 will already be... sometimes you don't want to give the GT3 the line. I'll give you to it after the corner, but sometimes they're fast enough to already be inside you by the corner, and if one of them gets inside you, you're just going to have to let both of them past. It is unfortunate, but it happens. Definitely, I had an amusing moment in the Formula Student race yesterday that we competed in for ACCSS, where Bram Helkenvolg, one of the guys running SGP, got held up giving way to the leaders, and I managed to get past him because I am much more used to being lapped than him, was my excuse. So it is definitely a skill, as weird as it sounds, to lose as little time as possible while letting the faster class by. Steve Hughes still in the lead, still with that success penalty. If anyone new has joined the race recently, the reason you are seeing penalties up and down the board is that these are success penalties for the last race. So anyone who won their class, I believe, should be getting 10 seconds, and then others should be getting 5 seconds. And Maciej Markowski has 10 seconds as well, which maybe means he has maybe means he has another penalty coming over from last race or something. Not exactly sure, but our team, I'm sure, are setting all these up behind the scenes. Interesting situation here, as Ollie Venner is trying to catch Coleman still, but you can see there the Jaguar of Henley and the Aston Martin of Alvarado. Alvarado has already pit, and so is about to be lapped by Venner and the others. And Henley obviously started a lap down, so he is already lapped and is being lapped for the second time here by the faster guys. But Alvarado is one of the faster guys. He's right up at the front here, and so even though he is getting lapped here and will have to give way, he's not going to want to until he absolutely has to, because he's trying to set as good times as he can in order to make his own strategy work.
Yeah, and he's not setting bad times at it. He's done a 43.5 in the last lap, which is about on par with our leaders.
Yep, so Olivera, if he can't make a big impression into Nicholas Alvarado, he might just have to settle for following. Nicholas Alvarado is the position just ahead of Ryan Ware, so he's the last of the GT3s to not be behind the GT4s. He obviously was behind the GT4s for a little while after pitting. None of our GT4s have pit so far as I can see. So Victor Janba feeling that damage isn't enough. Ollie Henley, who is already lapped and isn't quite as fast as our leaders, getting out of the way. I believe we have some Harley fans in the chat. Harley Coleman. Second position in AM right now, just ahead of the American Porsche of Lurk. We have most of the AM field here in your image. These 4 cars coming up to lap some GT4s.
Is Sir up yet?
Andrew Hearn is also pushing Jesper Eriksson. He has Chris Meadows right behind him, but he is right on the tail of that Mercedes, trying to make an impact. Also, Martin Roundtree, we should give him a shout out, because after being overtaken by Daniel Terry, who was going consistently faster than him at the time, he has really picked up his pace. And so it seems like he wasn't the best at dealing with the pressure and is much more enjoying following Dan Terry, which is good for him. Hopefully this can be really good for his race, because if he's comfortable sitting behind another car, he can get pulled along and get even further ahead of the rest of the amateur pack behind him.
Do you know what? I can understand that. I'm pretty much the same. I like following other cars more than driving out in front of them.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I am also. Much less stress somehow, as Keith Griffin and Eric Strom getting pretty close together there. Is that Eric Strom? That's not Eric Strom. That's actually a back marker. My apologies. That is Dagner, who has already pit in the yellow and blue Porsche behind. Ooh, but very much in the graph there is Keith Griffel. This is one of those awkward positions as a back marker where the car in front of you has just made a huge mistake, but you technically shouldn't be overtaking him, but he's obviously being slowed down a little bit there as Dan Terry has dived into the pits. So perhaps he himself is not also liking being followed there by Roundtree, although his times were still fine. We've got to 1 hour 54 left in this race, so a good time to be pitting. You can have 2 reasonably long stints here without having to absolutely full fuel. Although I think that most people will probably be going for that long middle stint. Or at least giving themselves the opportunity to do a long middle stint, even if they don't end up doing it. Here is Eric Strom, who's just lapped the GT4 of Victor Janba, although goes onto the sand there. Victor Janba, smart avoidance. Stay round wide at the hairpin, which is a little bit annoying for him, because it means he's lost a little bit of time due to the error of the Honda there, but doesn't have to lose too much time. The Honda gets the position back and hopefully can keep it this time. Victor Janba in his last lap set a 1:53.7, and I'm going to want to see what he sets now, because he was pretty well up with some of the faster guys in GT3 there in low 53s. So if he's consistently doing these slow 53s, then I am going to be of the opinion that he probably should have pit.
might also come into factor that the beginning, the stressful beginning has ended, and now we're starting to get into the more chilled out phase of the race, where you don't have immediate fights for position all of the time, so you don't have to push.
Yeah, they're also getting lapped, which obviously will slow you down at some points. We can see some of the faster guys in, like Ryan Ware, for example, only did a 155 in the last lap, which means he probably was having a few GT3s behind him. So it's not the easiest to compare these times. That's totally correct. But Victor Janber definitely hasn't been making up any ground on the guys ahead of him so far. So Ryan Ware in the red and black Aston Martin is still leading the GT4s, although he does have that 10-second success penalty. Julio Rodriguez in the Mercedes is leading GT4 right now, with Daniel Bradford right behind him in the Chevrolet. Good to see the Chevrolet up there doing well. The AMs are still being led by Martin Roundtree, who is up in 5th position overall, so very impressive run from him. And Nicholas Norberg has taken over the lead of Silva due to the pit of Daniel Terry. He's taken Nathan Wells at some point over the track. And then, of course, Steve Hughes running in the lead. Steve Hughes, who his one piece of feedback after the last Pro Split season was that he wanted more camera time. So here you go, Steve. Here's some camera time. You weren't so far ahead of everyone else. I'm sure you would get more. Jesse in the background there. That is Coleman Corkery. Just coming around that corner behind the GT4. And he is the nearest challenger to Steve Hughes.
Yeah, and he's definitely within the punching range of the 10 seconds. I believe Ollie Venner is too, so as soon as the first rounds of pits are over, because the penalties will be served in the pits, Coleman Corkery and Ollie Venner will very likely be in front of Steve Hughes.
Absolutely. Success penalties really doing their job here, hopefully, as they are going to give Steve Hughes a bit more of a challenge than being able to run away with the lead of this race. He's going to have to come in and hopefully going to have to fight his way back past Coleman Corkery and perhaps even Ollie Venner in order to get the lead. Steve Hughes, though, is very efficient at his pit stops, so Coleman Corkery and especially Ollie Venner, who's right on that bubble, is going to have to make sure they do their pit stops well in order to get that jump, because Steve Hughes doesn't leave anything on the table in those stops. Actually, Markowski coming up to, it looks like lap a GT3 here. That's Paul Gretix, who is in 18th overall. Martin Roundtree just a little bit behind, but obviously does not need to fight Markowski. Markowski doing a decent job keeping himself up there in Pro Split. Going to take the inside there a little bit hard on the curb. Throws himself into that corner quite aggressively and almost throws himself off, but he is going to manage to get past the Ferrari. So you look at Andrew Hearn, 9th position in the sort of midfield of the GT3 Silvers here.
Strong showing by Hearn. He's normally a quiet racer, not too flashy, let's say, and it looks like he's having the same day as usual. But that is sometimes all it needs. Have a quiet race, get to the finish line. That is the most important thing you need to do. And everything else is a bonus.
Absolutely, especially in these longer races, just setting a good pace is the main thing. As we see Keith Griffin now coming up behind some GT4s, just passing the Ginetta of Adam Rayner. Porsche on Porsche as he gets past the Cayman GT4. Good clean work here. Have seen very little incidents so far with lapping. There was that one McLaren who misread some cues from the BMW in front, but we haven't witnessed, at least, any major contact between them, which is good to see.
It doesn't seem that there was any major happenings, except for in lap 2, I believe, where there were 2 crashes which led to a bit of damage. But so far it's been a very clean race, very good showing, very well behaved.
Yep, no one making any outrageous moves. Everyone knows they've got their 2 hours to go, even if some of them are being a little bit too aggressive. And we are on board right now with Ollie Venner, who's usually very aggressive, but is keeping decent times with Nicholas Alvarado, not able to pass him. Nicholas Alvarado a whole lap behind at this point. He is already pitted. And so Ollie Venner coming up behind without the pit stop to his name. Got some Team Harley hype in the chat. Harley Coleman here in 11th position. 2nd place in the amateur split right now. Obviously, Dagner was already pit, but he did have some incidents before pitting, so he probably has a good job to stay in this 2nd position, as long as he can keep ahead of those behind him. And those behind him both have success penalties, so a really nice position right now for Harley Coleman.
Just needs to keep his wits about him right now. Keep it between the white lines.
There's Paul Greatix getting lapped again. Paul Greatix has pit, so he's not just really far behind these guys. There is a reason for him being there. Oh, and 669. 669 has had an incident. That's Daniel Bradford, who the camera angle is not showing us, but he's just off. He lost it going into the Ravazza. Possibly an incident with lapping GT3, but also possibly just taking a little bit too much speed into there. As far as the timing is concerned, he is still in 2nd of the amateur GT4s. It looks like he still is. He has maintained his position because David Wirch and Adam Rayner are having a bit of their own battle further back in the field. Good those two are together, though. It can often be pretty lonely if you're not up at the front, but Adam Rayner, if we sit on board with him, can just up there in the front see his opposition, David Wirch, in the Porsche that he is chasing down, who is just being lapped by, it looks like, Steve Hughes, our leader right now. We get the Jaguar of Ollie Henley as well, getting out the way of some lapping cars. He obviously had issues. Oh, as Reynolds goes wide. The Jaguar obviously had issues on turn 1, or on before lap 1. Had to come into the pits, and he's cleared his pit stop, which means that Ollie Henley has pit again. as we see Ryan Ware, the leader of the GT4s, for the first time pulling up to lap the last of the GT4 field. Adam Rayner going wide and getting out of the way of that, with now Nicholas Alvarado and Ollie Venner coming up behind him to try and lap. You see two battles going on here. It looks like Jesper Eriksson is getting perhaps pressured, or is that a back marker? Yeah, Jesper Eriksson is the yellow car up front, so that's a back marker. Oh, that's the GT4 Mercedes. I can see now as we get closer to him, the little Wang. Look at the little Wang. It's so small. So Hearn diving on the inside of the chicane is right behind Meadows and Ericsson here. These two in front of him, so these three still having a nice little battle for position. As Keith Riffle is following as well. Michael Lurk in that American Porsche. Both of these guys not to have pitted. Both of these guys with a success penalty. Keith Riffle behind with more success penalty, being the winner of our last race. So he's going to have to push to make some headway here.
Yeah, but he's been on the back of Lucky for quite a while now. It doesn't seem like he has the pace to get in front and take the lead in this battle.
Yep, not without a mistake, for sure. He had a much faster lap last time, which means Michael probably came into some sort of issue, perhaps with lapping. And we can see as well on the minimap here, a couple of drivers coming into the pits. First, we have Victor Janba in the BMW. We'll see if he repairs his damage. I would expect he should, as we look at Daniel Durrett now in the Audi, but he was driving with it for quite a while and seemed okay with it. So if he thinks he's setting decent lap times, he may not. Steve Hughes comes through to lap them. Steve Hughes still not having pit is gonna try and rinse out this first stint for as long as possible, I would assume. Obviously with the Bentley you can go a long way, much longer than other cars. That's one of the reasons we have these two mandatory pit stops, and so he can definitely rinse some time out of this still.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with a full tank, he can definitely do 1.5 hours. So he might even do that. Try and get the most time between himself and Corkery.
Yeah.
In order to possibly not fall behind after serving the success penalty.
I think that would be smart because he knows that he is the fastest driver here. He doesn't want to put himself behind the other cars. So I think the correct thing to do for both Common Corkery has to run his stint out absolutely as long as he possibly can. And then Steve Hughes has to do the same. Common Corkery staying within those 6 seconds to Steve Hughes so he can get ahead in the pit phase. But Ollie Venner falling back a little bit. He was 12 seconds behind our leader, but has fallen back a couple more. So he's going to be well outside of that 10-second range now. And so it's really looking between Common Corkery and Steve Hughes for who can do next. Maciej Markowski has a long way until the next of the pro drivers, Nicholas Alvarado, although Alvarado has already pit, so it's still possible that Maciej Markowski's success penalty will also come back to bite him. Ooh, we have a Sponge Netta there in the middle of the track, holding his brakes, making sure to stay out of the way. That's Adam Rayner, unfortunately, has made a mistake coming out of that awful tricky chicane, as De Ridder is lapping a back marker.
Right as he tries to get going, bonks the wall as well a bit with his front.
Ooh, that's an unfortunate one. Giving himself a little bit of damage there. And talking about a little bit of damage, have a look at Victor Janba, who is now right at the back of the field having pit in the GT4s. And you can see there from the condition of his bonnet that he has repaired damage. So a little bit longer pit stop, but that should set him in better conditions for running nicer laps for the rest of this race.
What you can also see with Janba is, interestingly, his indicator is working, which is rare for a BMW. But he's using it to signal to the lapping car that he's staying on the side and the lapping car can overtake on the other side, which is a smart move to do.
Good use of that indicator there to make sure the cars can get past. Most of the time it's pretty simple. You just hold your line and let them find their own way past, but sometimes you want to get them out of the way as quick as possible, go wide into a corner and let them pass, and the indicator does help for that. Not enough buttons on my wheel personally to do that, but it is definitely useful if you have the ability to. So a couple more drivers in the pit now, and Alvarado is behind Ollie Venner now, so Ollie Venner has managed to make his way past, but obviously still keeping up, still setting those laps. Has pit, and Ollie Venner has not. So it's going to be interesting to see how Alvarado goes, because Alvarado pit incredibly early and needs to absolutely drag out these next two stops to make sure he can make it all of the way. Himself and Dagner pitted so early that it is possible that they are on the limit of making it to the end of their race with the fuel for 2 stints.
Well, at least to Dagner I can speak, because the Porsche is not a very thirsty car, let's say. So it should definitely have enough space, at least, for surviving the 2 longer stints.
Julio Rodriguez there, getting overtaken by Ollie Henley. Good to see, because Ollie Henley obviously starting from the pits with that incident and having pit for his first of his pit stops, has made up a lap on the GT4s and is starting to pull through them. Unfortunately, very far behind any of the GT3s yet, but he still has an hour and a half to make up more time.
Apparently what we have said in the beginning has changed. There's now live steering.
Ooh.
So that's why you see...
That's why we see some extra penalties coming
still
through. Nice. I did hear Shane Thomas saying that he might, as he wasn't taking part, he might sit around and do some penalties. So seems like they decided to do it. And it hasn't been a action-filled race, an incident-filled race, so it's probably... you know, not too bad a job right now. It's not like they're having to clear up any sort of Bathurst lap 1 incidents, so he can just casually cram through these. And it's a long race, so he has a long time to get these penalties in before the end of the race. So Mache perhaps picking up that extra 5 seconds for the tap on the Lexus on the first lap would make sense, and that would show why he has 10 seconds rather than the normal 5 seconds penalty for coming second in his class. Same could be true for Menno de Ridder in the GT4s. And Steve Hughes is actually in the pit. This is earlier than I expected, clearly not running that full pit. And this is going to put him out behind Coleman Corkery, who has already passed him and is now in the lead of this race. Ollie Venner has passed him as well. So Steve Hughes not putting enough fuel in to make the big play, and is now going to have to deal with being behind these guys. Now, hopefully for him, Corkery and Olivena and perhaps even Markowski will be pitting soon. Actually, Markowski's pitting right now, so Markowski will not be an issue for him. But he's got to hope that he doesn't have to overtake any of these guys on track. Which, as he's just leaving, it's likely that he won't, because Venner and Corkery won't be running for that much longer. We are about 50 minutes into this race.
But honestly, this, as you call it, early pit stop by Steve Hughes is it doesn't make a difference. He will have to lap GT4s either or way.
That is true.
So just getting it out the way, having 3 about equal stints is might as well also be valid.
It will, in a vacuum, put him in opportunity to get the best time with the lowest amount of fuel on average across the race. And it is about averages in these races, as we see Coleman Corkery coming into pits, so going to be absolutely no threat to Steve Hughes. Because what Steve Hughes wants to avoid is getting stuck behind any of these guys who are similar speed from him. That is what could be worse than lapping GT4s. But he's going to have to catch them pretty quickly for that to happen, and it doesn't look like it will, because Venner can't have that much fuel left in that Audi.
It's going to be interesting, though, because Steve Hughes, he did serve the 10-second penalty. So when Corkery comes out of the pits, he should be in front by about 3 to 4 seconds, meaning Steve Hughes would have to catch up and then overtake him.
Yep, absolutely. This is where the interest in this race can come from, and hopefully the success penalties have done their thing. He's also coming up just behind Chris Meadows, and this is now a fight for position with Chris Meadows technically, so Chris Meadows has no reason to get out of the way, and here it is. Coleman Corkery leaving the pit lane. He's still got a little length of pit to go before he is free. Chris Meadows dealing with some back markers here, and in the distance there you can just see Coleman getting out. So he's actually managed to get out. Oh, there he is. Right, so he's actually right just behind Chris Meadows, so that's unfortunate for him as well, because he now has Chris Meadows to deal with. Steve Hughes has the GT4 of Daniel Durrett to deal with right before Chris Corkery. And here we go. Now we have some real action in this race. A fight for the lead, essentially. Oh, there's a little hop there. Coleman Corkery, seeing Steve Hughes been faster than him, is trying to copy Steve Hughes' flying aptitude as well. That has slowed
Yeah,
in.
Steve Hughes is definitely got a good pit crew, seeing how close he caught up to Corkery here.
Yeah. As I said, he doesn't leave anything on the table in those pit stops, and so if you're going to challenge him there, you have to be on your game. Got a few more people pitting now, so we're obviously starting to come to the end of what you can do on a whole tank of fuel. Almost an hour stint for these guys. Martin Roundtree, the leader of the AMs, also going in for a pit now. Luak and Strom in the AMs going for a pit. So every AM but Keith Griffel has actually already pit. God damn you, ACC cameras. So Mena de Ridder has taken the lead in GT4 for the time being, with Jose Rodriguez, the leader of AM, in second position in GT4, with Ryan Ware behind him, having already made his pit stop. David Wirch making his pit stop now is going to mean that these two at the front of the GT4 field are the last two to have not made their first pit stop. Martin Roundtree in the pits. Keith Griffel carrying on, has not. So Keith Griffel, Chris Meadows, Nathan Wells, and Ollie Venner all yet to have pit. And Ollie Venner really stretching out that first stint. This means he was carrying a lot of fuel through the early section of this race. And hopefully for him means that he can run on lower fuel than the rest for the rest of the race and perhaps make up a little bit of time through doing that. Oh, Maciej Markowski getting really out of shape there. Loses the position to Nicholas Alvarado, who with that early pit stop has really had a good run there. Roundtree, the leader of the AMs there, right behind him. And Daniel Terry back into the lead of Silvers, at least those who have pit. Chris Meadows, Nathan Wells still to go, so we're not certain on that yet. But he's coming around just behind this big pack in front of him. Here is Dagner and Martin Lurk. Ben and Michael they are inseparable right now. They have been in these positions for the whole race. They've now both pit and are still right on each other's bumper. Keith Griffel in the pits from the lead of AMS. So we're going to see where this slots him back into. The next AM right now is Martin Roundtree, who is just crossing the line. Just finishing his outlap and has taken the lead again. Harley Coleman has about half the lap to go still. He's just behind Steve Hughes there, coming down to the Variante Alta. Oh, there, Keith Griffel has been dropped from his jacks and is on the move. So here's Coleman just passing the apex of the pit, and there is Keith Griffel still coming out. So Harley Coleman takes second place. Benjamin Dagner coming up behind, who's made a bit of a gap from Martin there. Actually took Martin and made a gap and is going to take Keith Griffel. So Dagner making two positions up there on two fellow Porsches. We see Michael Lerk there going across the gravel at the end, and we now have three Porsches in a row, three yellow Porsches one by one coming through here. Great job from Benjamin making that incredibly early pit stop work. After a little bit of damage early on, he qualified in second for the amateur split, up there in the top 10 right behind Martin Roundtree, and is working his way up through the field, finally getting past Michael, and hopefully this will allow him to shoot ahead of the rest of the competition in AM. Martin Roundtree, of course, still leading in 8th position.
Well, Dagner still has to catch up with Harley Coleman there, and that is going to be challenging because Harley Coleman, of course, in a very strong position, setting good lap times overall. So it is going to be a challenge, definitely, for Dagner. A mental one, mostly. To keep focusing forward, keep posting the good lap times, and over the course of the race catch up to Harley Coleman.
Absolutely. So Ollie Venner going side by side through Variante Alta there with GT4 Brethren. One of the last people not to have pit, Nathan Wells, as well as Menno de Ridder having not pit, and Chris Meadows entering into the pits now, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes out. He was lower down in the Silver Split running before the pits, so good to see where he comes. We have Daniel Terry here, who is just coming around the backside, and we saw that even halfway down the track you can get past, so it looks like maybe Jesper Eriksson, Paul Greatix, the sort of around 11th, 12th, is more likely to be the position that Chris Meadows can see himself coming out into. We see Menno de Ridder back there pitting as well. That's another battle we should keep an eye on, because Ryan Ware is coming through Aqua Minerale right now. He's in a good position to take back the lead. Jose Martins then, the next driver in that, is coming through Piratella, and he's going to have a little bit of a harder time to get past him. Chris Meadows has started to leave already. Nicholas Norberg has passed him. Jesper Eriksson is coming up to pass him now. I believe that is him who you can see in the distance. So has he passed Jesper Eriksson? He has. So he gets out just behind Nicholas Norberg in 10th position. So a top 10 for Chris Meadows. Good work there by him so far.
Into the chicane. Right. Left.
Thank you, White Camel, for hosting us, and welcome to everyone who's come in from him. This is the Assetto Corsa Competizione Solo Endurance Cup. This is our penultimate round of this very long-running series. We have a race about once every month. Nathan Wells here has just come into the pit, and in GT4, Menno de Ridder is coming out of the pit there, just murdering a cone. Ryan Ware well ahead. Jose Martins just going to pop ahead there. And Daniel Durrett is only just getting onto the start-finish straight here. So it looks like Menno de Ridder is going to come out in 3rd position, which means Jose Martins has had an incredible first stint and start of his 2nd stint, and has made up a position on Menno de Ridder, who qualified 2nd in our GT4 and was in 2nd position up until these pit stops. How is Nathan Wells doing? He's just about to come out as well. And he looks like he's coming out ahead of that sort of battle. Chris Meadows catching up right now. But Nathan Wells is already starting to get up to speed going into that first corner. There's Nicholas Norberg just managing to sneak past him for that position. So Nicholas Norberg in 8th, followed by now Nathan Wells in 9th, who's got a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. So that's all thrown it away there from Nathan Wells. Really unfortunate to see. Most of our penalties overall gone now. All of our success penalties have been cleared. Only Ollie Venner left to pit, with Steve Hughes still having to chase down Corkery, who is right there in his sights. But this is the sort of thing we were talking about before. Steve Hughes believes he is faster. Has been proven to be faster so far. But Coleman is not much slower. And so it's going to be very hard for Steve to overtake. And if he can't do it on track, he's going to have to rely on his final pit stop, which, as we know, he is excellent at. So it could all come down to that. Coleman needs to hold Steve Hughes off for 2 more stints. 1 hour and 20 minutes left to go in this race.
But Hughes has been looking at the back of Corkery for a few laps now. Coming quite close at times, and yeah, he might get impatient at some point. Having a little bit of a spin there, almost. And he cannot allow that to happen, not now, as he's fighting for the win. He needs to calm down right now and keep it cool. Stay behind him for now and wait for his opportunity.
Absolutely. I think Steve can be pretty sure that he is going to take the lead at the next pit stop. He's confident with his pit stops. He's been really good with them, so I wouldn't worry too much. If he sees the opportunity, take it. But if not, he has a whole hour and 20 almost left to go. Nathan Wells pitting for his stop-go 30 is going to absolutely throw him out of contention for a good finish in the silver split, unfortunately. Looking down the field, there are other battles going on. We have Paul Gratix here fighting with Andrew Hearn over 11th position. Oh no, fighting with Jesper Eriksson, sorry, over 10th position. So this is for the last position of the top 10. And how are our GT4s going? Because Ryan Ware is obviously still leading. He's pulled off an incredible lead over the rest of the GT4s. He is already coming up to Villeneuve. Jose Martins, the next driver, just coming up to Tamburello. But the interesting one is Menno de Ridder. How far is he behind? He's not hugely far, just coming up to Tamburello himself. So he is going to want to try and push on Jose Martins, but Jose Martins been having the better times, at least recently, and has a better fastest time as well, 1:52.5, which is very close to being the fastest GT4 time, just behind the 1:52.45 of Ryan Ware. Victor Janba, after his damage, has also managed to climb his way past some of the GT4 AMs.
If you want to switch to Steve Hughes and Coleman
we can see him there in the background. Yeah, he is looking like he's trying to make a move. Good catch there. Rolling around the outside into Tamburello. It's an awkward place to try and pass, but they're going to go too wide through there, and he now has the inside. But Coleman Corkery, strong defense there, is going to stay on the outside and slot in just ahead of the Bentley in order to keep that position. The first signs of weakness starting to show from Coleman Corkery as Steve Hughes looking to make that move happen.
After the long straight, of course, being able to slipstream yourself up. Also, the Bentley being better on the acceleration than the Aston.
Yes. Big thing there coming out for Vatsa.
Yes, exactly. And that combined always leads to a good overtaking opportunity after the pit straight. And he's just going to have to see whether he can do it next time around.
Absolutely, and next time around, it's possible that they will have a play friend, although they might end up overtaking him, because Ollie Venner is in the pits right now in his Audi. The last driver on the field to pit, having done, don't do maths on stream, but over an hour of racing, right? He's done a lot on that first stint, taken the big one, and he has now started to move forward with Coleman Corkery and Steve Hughes just coming out of the first corner again. Steve Hughes not looking like he has quite so good a run this time. Ollie Venner has still quite a way the pit crew to go though, and you can just see he's been overtaken there. So unfortunately, not going to be quite close actually. He has he obviously his pit box was very early on in the pit lane, and so he is going to have to really push. Just leaving the pit exit now and into Tamburello.
I do believe he's so far back now that he must have pushed too far once already and maybe went off track.
Possibly, yeah. He is 12 seconds behind the leading pair. Ryan Ware having a similarly dominant lead to our front two. Is a good way ahead of Jose Martins in second. He was just about to cross the line. As a GT3 back marker now for Steve and Corkery. This is a bit more of an issue than the GT4s. You'll obviously have to actually have them give way to you rather than just being able to sail by. The blue flags are out from the marshals, but not any quarter given quite yet. It's going to be going wide into the second of the Ravazza, and that will give out the space. Not too much position lost for either of them, but that is not how Coleman Corkery is going to be wanting to feel. He may be a little bit flustered there, because that is an important part of the lap, as Julian has stated, for possible overtakes from Steve Hughes.
Yeah, that back marking was a bit dodgy there by Andrew Hearn.
Absolutely, and there's more to come as well. A couple of GT4s, this Chevrolet coming up first, but there are a couple more GT3s that they will have to lap in the near future, which could cause an issue. You can see even there, just losing a little bit of time catching that GT4 at the wrong moment, going into the hairpin, and holy moly, that's one of the Aston spun. That is either Chris Meadows or the other. Oh, that was a punt into the wall as well. Or Nathan Wells. I think it might be Nathan Wells. No, is that Chris? It's Chris. Chris Meadows.
Chris Meadows and Jesper Eriksson.
Ooh, hit into Jesper Eriksson and has slammed himself into the wall, as Jesper Eriksson in 12th position now. Clearly failing to get past him right there. Another GT4 passed by our two leaders. Car 25 is off as well. That is Adam Rayner, who's clearly had a little spin there. Yep, there we are, as Jim says. Halfway mark, still a long way to go. 1 hour and 12 minutes marking our halfway, as we see an Audi getting a bit loose there and really scaring McLaren in the background. But at this halfway mark, we still have less than a second between our two contenders for the win of this race, Coleman Corkery and Steve Hughes. Steve Hughes having that 10-second success penalty for winning the last event in this series is going to have to force a move at some point, or get him in the last of their mandatory pit stops. Talking about mandatory pit stops, Chris Meadows will be taking his now, obviously to repair that damage that we just saw him to sustain, and this has taken him out a second in the silver split and has thrown him right down the order.
This is going to be a challenge now, coming through to the finish with the Aston for almost, for over 1 hour and 10 minutes. He might even have to switch to a bit of a fuel-saving engine mode.
Yeah, he's going to be right on the limit of what he can do there for sure. You are definitely correct. Just over an hour is what most can do safely, and the Aston will be struggling at the end there. But also the fact that he has pitted and we believe he can make it to the end means that we are within the pit window for our last pit stop from some of our drivers. Anyone who wants to come in early and do a longer last stop will be coming in soon. A lot of people won't want to risk it, just in case, like Chris Meadows has just had, just in case they get some damage. But some people will start risking it within the next coming half an hour or so. Should give a shout out to Nicholas Alvarado, who pit very early on and is now in 4th position ahead of Maciej Markowski. And he's done very, very well. Just lapping the Ferrari of Eric Tyrrell. He is going to have to stretch out this as well, though. As we were saying, he probably could pit now and get to the end. But he's going to be coming to the end of his fuel pretty soon. And so he's going to be one of the first people we expect to see pit, along with Benjamin Dagner in the Porsche, who is second in AM right now, has taken Harley Coleman, but also should be near the end of his fuel limits.
It'll also be interesting to see if Dagner just stretches this stint a bit more out now that he's overtaken Harley Coleman, or whether he wants to try and continue and even get up to Martin Roundtree. I would rather say that he should feel safe now a bit and just keep it in front of Coleman, because, well, Roundtree is having such an amazing race today.
Yeah. Roundtree and Benjamin originally both started up there in the top 10, and Benjamin obviously fell down from an incident early on, and I think, as you said, with Venner having to settle with third earlier, he's going to have to settle for second in class at the best there, as we see a little mistake there made perhaps by the Aston Martin. So Steve Hughes is now side by side with him going into Tosa, but there is a Porsche GT4 there who got in the way slightly of Hughes, but Hughes having a good run there. Another BMW that they have to pass, and he just cuts over ahead of the Aston, so they're going to make that. Corkery still looking to make a move, and he's actually got a really nice run there onto the inside of Aqua Minerale. Steve having to go wide out onto the curb there, but you can do that, and the Aston taking the place back. So a fantastic fight there between Coleman Corkery and Steve Hughes just when it looked all lost there for the Aston Martin. Corkery's going to take it back and resume his position up at the front, and really wide for Steve Hughes. That is a rare mistake there from the big Bentley boy. And he's going to have to make up some time now, a little bit of breathing room for Coleman Corkery.
There you see the mentality of Corkery. He's really not given up, even though he was completely behind Hughes in his Bentley. That was a great showing there to see that he's definitely not one to give up early, and that he definitely wants to contend for getting the success penalty for next round.
Chris Meadows, talking of penalties, has a 10-second penalty for that incident with Jesper Eriksson that put him into the wall. So our stewards today have felt that he is at fault with that, and he does not have a pit stop yet, so that will be hanging across his name for the rest of the race, and means that Ed Turrell and Ollie Henley have a chance to make this happen, although they may be quite far behind, and I think Meadows might be safe, but who else might be safe is anyone in front of him. Nathan Wells, the next driver he could have overtaken. Back in GT4 world, Derrida just being overtaken by Ollie Venner is slowly catching Jose Martins. You can just see ahead of him in the distance that pink and blue Jimmer looking bimmer. Yeah, and the BMW there has a much worse incident with the GT3s there, or not an incident, but an encounter, as he's going to have to slow down coming out of Aqua Minerale and loses a lot of time. That's put Derrida right up onto the back of him. Steve Hughes also right up onto the back of Coleman Corkery again, so he's making good progress. And Nicholas Norberg is going to become the second of our drivers to pit for his second time, and not from damage this time. This is his strategy. Nicholas Norberg looking for that long last sprint to get him as high as possible in the silver split.
There's definitely a well, I don't want to say a risky strategy by Nicholas Norberg there, but I had a talk with him before the race today, and he said that well, he doesn't like the Lamborghini too much, and it is just very unstable for him. So having a long stint to end off with the most opportunity to make a mistake, is it was a risky strategy, to say the least.
Absolutely, for sure. And we'll have to see how that goes for him, as he's coming out around Nathan Wells. As we're seeing now our two leaders lapping. We've got both of our main leaders there, the leader of GT4 just behind the leader of GT3, just ahead of Steve Hughes, who is in the middle right now, really close up on the exit of Ravazza 2. Can he get the run out of there? He should have the better escape than the Aston, but the Aston seems to have got a nice run out of there. You can see him catching up just a little bit in the draft with that extra grunt that he has. Pulling out pretty early there. So just putting his nose in and trying to force a mistake out of Coleman Corkery.
I wouldn't count too much on Corkery making a mistake, seeing that he had such a strong mentality when he was already behind. But it's worth a try anyways.
Absolutely. If you don't lose too much time behind and you can't get a jump on him right there, then it is a good one to go for. Maciej Markowski here is actually catching up to Nicholas Alvarado. So these two could also end up in their own little battle. So Steve Hughes right now fighting for the lead with Coleman Corkery. We are coming up to the 1 hour remaining mark in the Solo Endurance Cup for the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sim Series at Imola. And down at the bottom of the table we have Ryan Ware leading the GT4s, doing an incredible job. Judy Rodriguez in the Mercedes there, leading the amateur GT4s, with Derrida and Jose Martins following. So Martins has actually lost the position to Derrida. You can see Derrida there right ahead of him. Must have made a mistake because there was still a couple of seconds in that the last time we looked. Benjamin Dagner coming into pit. He pit very early for damage, so it makes sense that he would be needing a stop soon. The same with Nicholas Alvarado, who has also just come in. Also pit very early on, so gonna have to probably right at the end of their tanks there. In the GT3 fields we have Martin Roundtree leading AM by a long way, with Dan Terry leading Silver. Those two are very close together on the track right now, as they were at the start of this race. And then of course Coleman Corkery, who looking in his mirrors can see the big bad Bentley of Stephen Hughes coming down on him. And this is the point where, as Julian said before, Stephen Hughes wants to get a better exit and a good run out of here. And he has that better run initially out of the corner, but it looks like the Aston just turns in a little bit nicer into the last section of Ravazza. And so he's not always getting the run he could.
Corkery is definitely looking cleaner on the exit each and every time. So it's going to be tough. Steve Hughes catching up, obviously, on the rest of the track, as we see right now. He swerves out a bit, but really the one overtaking opportunity is not that easy if he cannot get the right exit, as Corkery does.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come back to that run out of Ravazza, as we're starting to see those green numbers, those green little bars coming up in our pits as we are past the 1 hour mark, 58 minutes left. At this point, any car can pit and with no trouble make it to the end. So we will see people diving in anytime soon. But a lot of people will likely leave it as late as possible. Firstly, because as Julian said, when talking about Nicholas Norberg's early pit, it's safer because you still have that pit stop in which to repair any damage that you may get from many mistakes. But also because overall it leaves you on less fuel. You want to be on as little fuel as possible for as long as possible, and to do that you want to stay out draining your fuel tank rather than fill up your fuel tank and then have to drain it all over again. So once again, we're getting to that run out of the last corner where Corkery's getting the better turn in, but Hughes has the better run out of there and chug down the straights. And as we get to the end of the straights, the pendulum swings again, and the improved the sleeker aero of the Aston Martin starts to mean that the higher top speed swings in his favour. Coming through the first chicane, and it looks like Steve Hughes was not super confident through there and has fallen back a little bit. Won't even be putting his nose out into Villeneuve this time. As Paul Gratics pits, we have a few battles, sort of. This is that period of the race where people are going to come together who aren't necessarily on the same pace. For example, here's Andrew Hearn chasing down Nicholas Alvarado, but Nicholas Alvarado should be much higher on the pace. Coming in for that last pit stop already has obviously thrown him down the order, and he's going to be trying to set really blistering pace to come out ahead of Maciej Markowski when they both pit. Dan Terry and Martin Roundtree, sorry. The two between Nicholas Alvarado and Maciej Markowski right now. As you can see, already Alvarado starting to pull away. In the fight for GT4, Jose Martin's here side by side with Dorito, so we've just caught them at the end of a battle there, getting overtaken by GT3 as well while they're trying to fight Ollie Henley. You can see there behind the Porsche, putting BMW a little bit off his pace, and he's going to hit the curb there, which is going to throw him into the path of the Aston Martin. Really good avoidance there from Menno Dorito. And he's going to stay behind because of that one, but is right there on the tail of the BMW. And again, we should shout out Ollie Henley, honestly, because Ollie Henley has come in here with the Jaguar, not a well-liked car, especially back when he picked it for this championship. And he had some sort of technical issue. He was in pole for silver, but had some sort of technical issue which put him into the pits on the first lap. So he started from the pits a whole lap behind the rest of the field, and he has now finally managed to make it ahead of a GT3 car. He is ahead of Tyrrell in the second of the Ferraris, and with the penalty for Chris Meadows, there's even a chance he could take him, although obviously there is a pit stop between them. So he's now got ahead of these two battling GT4s, fighting for second position here. Dorita trying to get the same run out of the corner as Steve Hughes's. Well, Steve Hughes has done it. Steve Hughes has done it, and not at the position we were looking at him doing. So clearly Corkery has made some sort of mistake there in perhaps Aqua Minerale or the Variante Alta. Steve Hughes just ahead of him now, and now it comes down to Corkery to try and make that move coming out of the last corner. Fortunately, due to having custom liveries, we're not going to be able to watch the replay of that. But we'll see now, not only is the Aston more aero efficient, but he has that big block Bentley there in front of him, making a big hole in the air for him to follow. So he does have a reasonable chance of being able to make this position back. But Steve Hughes has shown the faster pace overall in the race and definitely could start to pull away through the twistier sections, and that might be the death knell to the Aston Martin driver for his opportunity of winning this race.
He's just going to look to stay behind, stay on really as close as possible to Steve Hughes. and take any possibility that might present itself, which is going to be difficult to say the least. But we still have the last pit stop to go, and after that we'll have to see, because then it will be really deciding depending on where they are on track in relation to each other.
Absolutely. Coleman still has that chance to jump Hughes in the pit stop, however slim that is with how well Hughes does those pit stops. And there is obviously still 50 minutes for either of these two to make a mistake. Steve Hughes has been incredibly consistent across his career in ACCSS, especially recently, but we have seen him taking the Alvarado line 1 or 2 times here, diving off between the chicanes. As Dan Terry now is in the pits, as well as Jose Martins, who's jumped out of that battle with Meno Derrida to become, I believe, the first of our GT4s to get into the pit stop. So these guys setting up for a reasonably long last sprint, as we see the Chevrolet in the side of Old Window coming in as well. Here we have Maciej Markowski coming up to lap Ryan Ware, the leader of GT4. Ryan Ware has a whole train of GT3s who want to get around him right now.
So, Rob,
Thank you to everyone who's been following during the stream, by the way. It's good to have you here. We normally stream Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for our regular championship series. That will be taking a little bit of a break for the next few weeks. We are hoping to have some stuff going on, especially community events, which may not be streamed, but if you want to join them, ! Sign up to get into the Discord, read the welcome channel, and that will give you all of the information you'll need to get signed up with SGP and with us on SGP, and come racing with us. We're going to have hopefully a lot of events. We have an hour at Donington coming up just later today, which will not be streamed, but community race we will all be taking part in and having some good fun. Everyone seems to be loving the new British GT pack, so we're going to be doing as many races as we possibly can on that. Our next big event will be the 6 Hour of Silverstone in 2 weeks, and then in 3 weeks we will have the start of the next season of our regular championship series. So far, and how this race is going, Julio Rodriguez is still leading the GT4 amateur split with Ryan Ware, Meno Derrida, and Daniel Durrett, the top 3 in pro. Jose Martins was in that top 3 but has pit, so it's going to be interesting to see where he will come out. And then the GT3s, a lot of the leaders of GT3s have pit. Dan Terry has already pit, leaving Andrew Hearn in the lead of silver. Nicholas Alvarado has already pit in pro, but was not contesting for the lead.
And Coleman Corkery just managed to get Steve Hughes because a back marker got in the way.
Ooh. Yeah, 2 GT4s there just behind them, and that has changed the fight for the lead of pro. GT3, Coleman Corkery getting right behind again. Right ahead again. So Steve has it all to do again. Still a pit stop opportunity to be made by both of these guys, but very good to see them battling so close here. Let's try and hop into a replay to see this. It will take a while to load, but we can deal with a while to load in such a long race. We still have 50 minutes of this race coming. So here is what happened. There is the Chevrolet getting in the way, and there is the Aston Martin of Coleman Corkery diving down to take that position. great job from him. Very good awareness to see what was happening there. Going into Variante Alta, one of the trickiest places on the...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Corkery just crashed.
Oh, boy, we're going to have to go into another replay when this one finishes. Holy... Nothing's happened for so long, and then as soon as I go into a replay, there's more replay-worthy stuff going on. So we're seeing just the end of the replay coming up now. And when it does, I'm going to make sure to get a nice long replay so that we definitely get to see that. You can see Corkery now down in second. It doesn't look like he has too much damage, but we'll see the incident hopefully in the replay now. So here he is, still leading from Steve Hughes. He is... Where is he right now? Is this Piritel? No, this is... Oh, it was at Tosa. It was at Tosa. Got a little bit too much on the power there. And went off onto the inside. Not a huge incident from him. But it has put him behind Steve Hughes. Steve Hughes obviously having this epic fight with him for the last few laps. And so now we're going to have to see what can happen. I can actually see already from my timing screen that Coleman Corkery, after making that mistake, has decided to pit. So when we come out of the replay, we will see him in the pits, and he is going to go for getting onto his last stint before Steve Hughes and trying to make up that time before the pit stops happen without having to fight him. He is just coming out of the pits here, and we are back to live. So now Steve Hughes is leading the race. We've been having a good run right now, and just quickly, while we are in the middle of our race, we're just going to go to a very short break. Hello and welcome back. So a little bit of technical issues there due to using the custom liveries on the server. We all love the custom liveries, but unfortunately they do cause some issues in Assetto Corsa Competizione. As you can see, Steve Hughes has just come out of his pits, and there is Coleman Corkery, who has not managed to make the undercut happen. Steve Hughes cutting it off there, making sure that he doesn't get any sort of advantage, and is now coming up behind two back markers. So hopefully he can get past these quickly, and he does. And this means that he is essentially back in the effective lead of this race. Olli Venner and Maciej Markowski technically ahead on track, but obviously haven't done their pit stop. Ryan Ware still leading the GT4s, very far ahead now of anyone behind him. Red, Ritter and Durrett still have not hit. And as we're getting towards the last 30 minutes, I'm expecting us to see a flood of the last few pits coming through. Harley Coleman just coming out of the pits now. Good morning, Florian. Unfortunate to not see you in the race. But good to see you in the stream, hanging out with us. Thank you to everyone who's hanging out in the stream with us today to watch the penultimate round of the Solo Endurance Cup. I'm gonna try and find some battles for you. But we've got quite a spread out field now, not just being so far through the races. God bless you for the sub, Florian. 3 months. It's great to have continued support of a lot of the ACCSS guys out here, throwing in their Twitch primes and such. Glad to have you guys on board. As obviously these pits coming through will be good help for us because they will start to bring some people closer together again. But for now, we're going to have to deal with keeping an eye on how things are going. Keith Griffel and Michael Lurk still haven't pitted and so are reasonably ahead of Dagner and Coleman. So it will be good to see where they slot back in. Dan Terry is already second in silver, even having pit already, so that's a really nice running for him in the ACCSS livery. Let's sit on board with Martin Roundtree for a little while, hear some engine noises, and see as he comes through some of the GT4s. The last time I did this at the end of a Solo Endurance Cup, every time I hopped on board with someone to watch them lapping GT4s, they binned it. So let's, for Martin's sake, hope that I do not set that curse upon him again.
Just looking to keep it very tidy behind the GT4.
To Martin Roundtree now, coming up behind the lovely looking backside of the Ginetta. Big fan of this car. We roll on past into the Variante Alta. Maciej Markowski here, coming in for the pits. Just a lap ahead of Dan Terry. So the interesting one to compare here is going to be Nicholas Alvarado. Nicholas Alvarado was the closest to Maciej at the start, and he's just coming through Piratella. And this is where we have seen before some people being close together. Looks like Alvarado should be ahead, but obviously depends on the speed of Markowski's pit stop and the speed of the rest of Alvarado's lap, so we'll have to keep an eye on this one. Having some back market issues here could be the nail in Alvarado's coffin. This could be the thing that slows him down enough to let Maciej past. Maciej is already on the move, but has a long way the pit stop to go on the limiter.
That was a quick Mercedes right there. Jasper Ericsson, I believe, losing it, losing the brakes maybe.
Oh boy. Here's Mache leaving the pit limiter line, and unfortunately for him, Nicholas Alvarado already ahead. Jasper Ericsson, we hear, going fast into Ravazza, and he's just come in ahead of Mache himself, having been demoted to 15th position after that mistake. He's just behind Benjamin though, and so this could be this is a race for position, and could be interesting. Let's sit on board with the Mercedes because I think that car makes a lovely sound. Stop go 30 seconds for Maciej Markowski. None of you can see Julian's face, but I can see Julian's face, and he is very sad.
Well, that means Alvarado is at least firmly in P5 right now.
P5 so far, as Martin Roundtree pits, probably promoting Alvarado to P4. Yeah, Macho is going to have to come through, and this is the second of these stop-go penalties that we've seen for drivers speeding in the pits. Unfortunately. Keith Griffel also pitting, means that we are, and Ed Turrell as well, so we're on very few drivers left to pit. The GT4s have more to pit. Adam Rayner, David Wirch, Julio Rodriguez, Melo Derrida and Ryan Ware, all yet to pit. But in GT3s, it's coming down to basically just Ollie Venner and Michael Lurk. They are the only two to be still going with 38 minutes left.
As the question just came up, the different sometimes you get a SG30 for speeding in the pit lane. Sometimes it's drive-through. It depends on how much you go quicker. If you go a bit too quick, well, marginally too quick, I say like 3 kilometers quicker or something like that, then it doesn't matter. A bit above that is a drive-through, and heavily above the 50 is an SG30. So it just depends on how excessively you miss your braking points on the entry.
Yeah, that's obviously the thing that's going to be getting most of our drivers in this server, is those fast speeds into the entry. And Ollie Venner going to go around for another lap as well. So leading the 60-second lap right now of the penultimate round of our Solo Endurance Cup. And Michael is in the pits, so he is the last of the GT3s not to have pit. He was in 3rd place before, so we will see if he falls back into that again. Steve Hughes, car number 7, so he's still got a little way to come by. So Ollie Venner has had a decent stint, it looks like. Not sure if it's enough to jump anyone, but the fighting between Steve Hughes and Coleman Corkery will have played slightly into Ollie Venner's favour. Whether it is enough, that's still yet to find out. But Steve Hughes and Coleman are also in this huge train of GT3s. You can see the 19th place Jaguar of Ollie Henley just getting lapped there. The 7th place Aston Martin of Dan Terry just behind him, and the 6th, is that 6th place Aston Martin of Roundtree just ahead of him? I think it might be. So there's just a huge train of cars here, all on different laps, all getting each other's way. And that, compared to Ollie Venner, puts on a slight gleam of hope, but a gleam of hope nonetheless for him to make a good position. As some of our back-marking GT4s are starting to pit, the GT4s still staying nice and positioned in their splits, with Ryan Ware and Meno Derrida still yet to pit.
It's not only about Olivanna making up time though, because they're both in the train. Steve Hughes and Coleman Corkery can either get out of there with an advantage or a disadvantage, depending how good the back markers are on their behalf. Coleman Corkery, of course, having the hope to get up to speed, as there's a lot of
look at this pack.
lot of traffic going on right there.
And what's making it harder as well is most of these are GT3s, so it's not just an issue of rolling past all of them on the straight as that poor little GT4 Mercedes just having to sit off the line while all of the big boys come by. Steve Hughes still coming around as Maciej Markowski jumps in the pits to take his penalty. Blue flags waving for many people. See Dan Terry there, diving around the side of Martin Markowski. This is one of the few battles between here that is for position, but that Porsche just going to slightly get in the way and prevent that fight from carrying on there. Dan Terry now getting blue flagged from behind as well, as he's trying to push through this pack to catch the Aston Martin ahead of him, who's now catching up to his own back markers in the form of that Jose Martinez BMW and the Ferrari of Ed Tyrrell. I keep saying Tyrrell, it's Tyrrell. It's so similar to Tyrrell, but I want to say Tyrrell.
But this is all not good for Corkery, who is very stuck behind this battle.
Absolutely. Daniel has managed to get very wide there from both Daniel and Roundtree. And that has actually given Corkery a step past, so that's good for him. But he's now got to get past another one, and Mountain Roundtree is not going to want to let him by easily, because if he loses too much time here, that's going to give Dan Terry a good run on him, and it has. Dan Terry actually sliding right by before the chicane. There's an Aston Martin off in the chicane, number 96. So that's Chris Meadows once again, unfortunately, finding himself off of the track. But Dan Terry there using the advantage of Roundtree pulling aside in order to let other cars past to get by, and this can allow him to pull away from Paul Gratchix, who is following him behind in the Ferrari in the same split, a little bit behind. So we again have multiple laps of multiple different GT3 cars here fighting, as Coleman Corkery has now managed to get out of most of the issue here. He's only got a few back markers ahead of him, and Steve Hughes has cleared the whole lot. 136 is the last car for him to pass. That is Michael Lewick in the Porsche, who is just ahead of him, but he's got a little bit of clear air until then and is generally free of all of these issues now. Ollie Venner just coming up behind some GT4s, not quite going to slow him down as much as the GT3s are, but still giving him a little bit of an issue to pass, getting there at an awkward time in Ravazza. In the pits is Chris Meadows. I did not see him drive round. I am worried that he has given up the ghost, but we will see. Hopefully him coming out as we see Ryan Ware coming out. And that means that the battle for first place in here could be on as well, although the battle is more between Jose Martinez and Menno de Ridder for second place in the GT4s, as you see David Wirch as well in the Porsche in there. Jose Martinez still on the track and has completed all of his pit stops, whereas Menno de Ridder in the Aston Martin has one more pit stop to make.
Yeah, there's only 2 more cars on this track left to make the pit stop. That's Menno de Ridder in the GT4 and Ollie Venner in the GT3 Pro Splits. It's going to be interesting to see how long he can keep this with his indicator on for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a sign that he's pitting this lap.
He's concentrating on more important things than turning off his indicator, it seems, as he comes around Ravazza for the end of the 65th lap of this 2 hour and 24-minute race. Soaring past Menno de Ridder. So these two cars that we can see on track here are the two last cars who have not pit, leading each GT4 and GT3 respectively, but possibly not for long. We'll see exactly what is happening to their opponents as they are pulling through here. Ryan Ware is coming onto the start-finish straight now. Steve Hughes still has a little bit to go before he gets down there. So less of an advantage than Ryan Ware. The more important GT4 battle is, of course, Jose Martins, who is much further behind, just coming through Aqua Minerale. So that's going to be where the interest lies for our GT4s. Menno de Ridder with no chance of coming out ahead of Ryan Ware, a good chance for coming out ahead of Jose Martins. And in GT3, Ollie Venner getting reasonably close to Steve Hughes if he can get a good pit stop in.
That's the first thing, that if he gets a good pit stop, he can close up to them. But the second thing is that he's going to be on fresher tires for the last stint and on less fuel with those fresher tires altogether. So it's going, if he can, if he's pulling into the pits right now, it's going to be interesting to see how he can exactly pull out this last stint to his most advantage.
Absolutely.
That he will have the fresher tires.
Even if he doesn't make the lead, he does have those fresher tires, as Julian said, and so will be able to still fight for that position. It's a good point with either Steve Hughes or Coleman Corkery or both. Coleman Corkery was right with Steve Hughes, but has obviously fallen back in these recent times. You can see him just coming over the brow of the hill there, a couple of cars behind Steve Hughes. But Ollie Venner has only just got into the pits, and both of these guys are already coming around towards Ravazza, so I'm not brimming with confidence right now that he's going to make a position here.
Venner just started again.
It's a good sign for him. Just coming around the last corner is Steve Hughes, though, and there is a long exit to this pit lane. On the left-hand side of our screen there, you can just see Steve Hughes coming past. Coleman Corkery coming past. And Ollie Venner is back out into third position. So now it's all up to what he can do with those fresh tyres. A couple of laps to get him up to speed. And then can he catch Coleman Corkery?
He will definitely have the motivation as well to do so, because Corkery is now in his sight, which he wasn't before.
Yeah, he has gained a lot of time for that last stint, which is really good for him.
Well, either that or Corkery just lost a lot of time because of the train of back markers.
Yeah, definitely a bit of both. Yeah, unfortunately, Chris Meadows has definitely given up on this race. So has, it looks like, David Wirch, who are both sitting in the pits. As Menno de Ridder has just been lapped by Nicholas Alvarado.
One who's not given up is Martin Roundtree, who's following Dan Terry very profusely right now.
And once again, we saw this at the beginning of the race. Dan Terry getting past him, but Martin Roundtree being able to keep up, being more confident behind the driver ahead of him. He's got a 26-second gap, apparently, back to Maciej Markowski, who will be catching him hand over fist, but even with the pace of Mache, I doubt he could do a second lap on Roundtree, so he's probably safe from behind and just has to keep with Dan Terry and not make any silly mistakes. And these two drivers, if they can do that, they will both be winning the lower splits of GT3 in this race.
Just have to keep it tidy for the last 23 minutes now. It's the only danger that could possibly be is Roundtree going for the honor overtake, the honor of being the one in front in total, even though for the points it doesn't make a difference because they are in different splits.
And here's Nicholas Norberg and Paul Gratix, who are not in different splits. They are fighting right now. Nicholas Alvarado coming up to try and lap them, but these two are for position and very close to each other. Another two who are is just behind them, Benjamin and Andrew Hearn, who are also fighting for position. So we're starting to get a little bit of action in these last few laps. There we go, Nicholas Norberg losing a little bit of time on Paul as he gets lapped, but Alvarado should be taking some time out of him now. Nicholas Norberg getting a nice run there through Piratella and Aqua Minerali. Ferrari having to give way to the Aston. Taking a lot of curve there, Lamborghini, but now he is right behind his foe and can start up that charge all over again.
I was trying to go on the inside there to in the Variante Alta, but that was never gonna happen.
Oh, and that's bad for them as well. Alvarado has made a mistake there and slowed them both down, although unfortunately for Norberg, he did slow them both down. He also, it looks like, has Nathan Wells, who's catching up on this battle ahead of him, Benjamin and Andrew. So these three also getting nice and close to each other.
Ooh. And Nicholas Norberg has taken Paul Grattrix for Paul Grattrix having gone off track.
And Nathan Wells taking Benjamin there as well, but not giving him enough room on the exit. It's going to tap into him. And Benjamin there going to retain that position with a little bit of damage there, and that could be a penalty coming in for Nathan, as we now see, as Julian said, Norberg in second place of silver, trying to pull away from Paul. After saying how much he is looking forward to moving away from Lamborghini to the Ferrari for next season, he's having one of his best Lamborghini races.
And what a time to have it.
Yeah, and then Paul has binned the chicane there as well, so it's going to be another bit of advantage to Nicholas. We are now under 20 minutes left in the Assetto Corsa Competizione Solo Endurance Cup. Ryan Ware has a comfortable lead on GT4, going side by side there with Ollie Henley. Menno de Ridder, the last GT4 to pit, has got himself a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane, so that is going to ruin this 2 hours or so of hard work that he's done to get himself up into second position. Jose Martin's then looking like he has a possibility of taking that position. Steve Hughes obviously leading the GT3 ahead of Coleman Corkery and Ollie Venner, with Martin Roundtree in 5th position leading AM and Daniel Terry in 6th position leading Silver.
Martin Roundtree must have taken Dan Terry at some point.
Yeah, Dan Terry making a mistake. That is correct. At some point. Eric Strom also having a little bit of an incident, has caught himself, but is last in AM right now.
Nathan Wells has caught up with Benjamin Dagner.
Hopefully, when he goes for his pass again, he'll manage to do it cleaner this time. As Menno Derrida is coming in to serve his drive-through penalty, this gives Jose Martins a chance to take that second position. And depending on how far behind that puts Menno Derrida, we could have a nice little fight for second position in GT4 once again.
There was a lot of space given there. Nathan Wells has taken Benjamin Dagner out of Rivazza.
And they are just coming past Menno Derrida, who's just got out of the pit lane and has lost a lot of time to Jose Martin, so he's going to need to really push hard to make up for that for that drive-through. Ollie Venner taking big chunks of time out of Coleman Corkery right now. So Coleman's once solid second position is looking under threat.
Venner has been steadily taking about
Oh,
6 to 8 tenths
yeah,
per
curve
lap.
there big. Threw himself over the Alvarado line and is now having to make some of that happen all over again, unfortunately for him.
As he's swerving a bit to dust off the old tires.
Yeah, I'll clean him up.
Still within 2 seconds of Corkery though. That didn't cost him too much, that whole excursion.
Yep, he lost about a second, but in the last few laps he'd made up about 2 seconds, so he still has a good chance to really push on Coleman Corkery here. Especially as they're about to come up to a big train of cars that they will be attempting to lap. Starting with this Mercedes GT4, who won't be too much of an issue, indicating that he's going to stay over to the right. Ollie leaving it nice and late. So this is really one of the last interesting points up there, although Nathan Wells actually has made a big leap. We saw him passing Benjamin earlier, and he's now putting pressure on Andrew Hearn, who goes big wide at the exit of Piratella. Right behind him through Aquaminerali.
Yeah, Andrew Hearn here, he had a quiet race usually, and now suddenly there's someone behind him that might play on his mentals.
Nathan Wells there, though, was slowed down by the fight with Andrew Hearn and is now being pushed by Benjamin again after taking a really bad line across the curb in Variante Alta. He's got the inside, so he could still hold his position, but the Porsche really pushing. These two have already come together in the last few laps, and once again are having a little side-by-side. The Aston Martin now going too far and onto the dust, which is going to give the Porsche another chance to come back. And all while this is happening, Ollie Venner still chipping away at Coleman Corkery. He's managed to get it to under a second between those two guys up at the front. While we're side-by-side still with Nathan Wells and Benjamin Dagner. Benjamin in the Porsche on the inside, and the Aston Martin is having to let him by, losing a lot of momentum doing so as well, and is going to have to put work in to get past that Porsche once again. As back up the front, Ollie Venner is right on the back of Coleman Corkery for the second position.
This is what I've been talking about. The fresher tires allowing a more drag.
Yeah, there it is happening exactly as you said. The Aston Martin getting just a little bit squirrely coming out of that corner, and the Audi soars past. Absolutely fantastic, bold move there from Venner, taking advantage of Corkery's misfortune, and Corkery is now down to third position. Venner making it happen, and is now going to have to pull away from Corkery and towards Steve Hughes, who is only just down the road, although he will have to be setting very fast lap times to catch up to Steve Hughes right now, as the 97 car is spun in the chicane. That's Nathan Wells. So Nathan Wells actually going back to the garage there, so not going to be an issue for Ollie Venner, but failing to take Benjamin Dagner again, perhaps having another incident with the car, hopefully not, but he is now going to be another retirement from this race. So here comes Ollie Venner across the line to start his 75th lap, with Steve Hughes leading that lap right now down towards the very anti-Villeneuve. That's amusing if that's true, Chris. That Wells was busting for a P, and so after failing once again to overtake, has decided to end this race. Unfortunate for him, but he had a nice bit of fight there at the end, as Hughes is coming up to pass the remnants of that once freeway battle.
There's a drive-through for Ollie Venner.
Oh, and that has got to be for excessive cutting, and he was already ahead. Oh, but he just pushed too hard. What a mistake to make. You were already in second. You could have chilled and accepted that position, but pushing too hard to try and make a position that he probably wasn't going to be able to has put his second position in jeopardy. He's definitely going to lose that now to Coleman Corkery in the last 10 minutes of this race.
Can confirm the drive-through was not from race control. It was in-game for track limits.
And Nicholas Alvarado is far enough behind that he's pretty safe from there. But he's definitely losing his time on Corkery. He's going to try and hang this out as long as possible to try and set enough quick laps to come in and out ahead of Coleman, because he knows he's faster. But that's going to be a tall order. He has 3 laps to do so before he will get disqualified for not taking his penalty. I've just realised as well that it's been almost a whole, close to 3-hour stream now, and I haven't once, I've always called the track Imola. I haven't once remembered to use its proper name, the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. I normally like to bang on about that random fact, but I've totally forgotten. So here's Venner coming up behind Ericsson. Ericsson giving him a nice amount of room to slip on by.
Then it's prolonging the serving of the drive-through for as long as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to give himself as good a chance as possible to go in and come out ahead of Coleman Corkery. And you can see that he's gaining like a second a lap. He gained 2 seconds that lap on Coleman Corkery. He's setting incredible lap times in the low 143s right now. And so if he can keep doing this, there is a possibility that he can pull out just enough time to at least keep himself close to Coleman Corkery and then have another go at that overtake as soon as possible when he gets back in.
I highly doubt that. Well, the drive-through around here is about at least 20 seconds.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very hard task. He has almost taken out half of that, though, in the last 3 or 4 laps. It'll be hard to fit another 3 or 4 laps in after this, but it's always possible. Probably going to have to go for third now. There he goes, diving into the pits finally to deal with this penalty. There Coleman Corkery is right away already going to soar past. You can see there's a lot of the pit lane still for Ollie Venner to go. Keith Griffel here, coming up to the back of Harley Coleman. This is going to be a fight for 14th position, right near the end of this race. 5 minutes coming up left. These are the two, I believe, who... no, it's the other two who are either side of... I can't remember the name. Oh, that's Matthew Markowski spinning off. Matthew Markowski got way too much of the curve at Villeneuve. Way too much of the curve at Villeneuve. And now he's just struggling back onto the track. Luckily for him, or I guess unlucky for him, he's already the last of the pros, and so he can't actually lose any more positions. He spun again. He spun again, trying to get around Tosa with dirty tyres. Revving the tyres to try and get back on the track, but realises and stops just before causing an issue for some GT4s. But he's had a long stint, and he's getting to the the latter side of that tyre life, and has made some silly mistakes here, very unfortunately. Oh, going wide again. He needs to calm down and just set some slow corners here, some slow time, so that he can get the heat back into his tyres, or the heat back out of his tyres, and get the dirt off of those tyres as well.
He still has quite a difference to Nicholas Norberg, who is behind him on track. About 20 seconds, so he can take it a bit slower than what he's doing right now.
Absolutely, it's Dan Terry leading the silver split. Has lost all of his position to Martin Roundtree, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't have anyone in his split chasing him down. That's Ollie Henley in the Jaguar behind him, who is down a lap, but he's gone off out wide before he gets to Tosa. So we're seeing a lot of people who are seemingly getting to the end of their concentration, getting to the end of the grip of their cars, of their tyres, and are starting to make some awkward mistakes around here. As Venner is overtaking back markers, he has 16 seconds now to make up to Corkery, and there's no way he's doing that because he only has a couple of laps left to go.
Is Sir up yet?
Welcome, Matt PUK. Hope you will enjoy getting on your PC and getting some more sim racing going. So no on-track battles left really for the last set. Keith Griffel actually is starting to catch up a bit to Haley Coleman. Not really pushing Holly that much. Derrida has made it back up to second overall. Paul Gratix is in the pit. That's one that we didn't necessarily expect. The Ferrari there coming in for an extra pit stop, clearly just not quite having enough fuel on board, perhaps pitting a little bit too early for his last stint. The leader is on the final lap, so this is the last run around the International Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari, the historic track of Imola. Keith Griffel, the last person on the track, looking to make up a position near the bottom of... Oh, Paul Gratix! Oh! He took that last minute pit stop for fuel right at the end of the race and has managed to get himself a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane on the last lap.
That is very unfortunate.
Yeah, he probably won't lose a position for it. But still, it's just insult added to injury here in the last moments of the race. Keith Griffel.
Now he's just looking. He will just be looking to finish the race, as Keith Griffel is still following Harvey Coleman.
Yeah, and this is the last lap, so if he's going to make a move, he's going to have to make it soon. Possible that we'll see a bit of desperation coming out from the Porsche driver. And as this battle rages on, Steve Hughes is going to come over to win another solo Endurance Cup race. Huge shout outs to the Bentley, the only Bentley in the field, who has come over to win this race. Donuts for the fans. As is Keith Griffel coming in with his last chance, not quite managing to do it. Corkery locked in second. Roundtree and Terry locking in first. There's Ryan Ware spinning with us, who's also locked in his first position in GT4. There's Daniel Terry, first position in second. You got all the winners doing some celebrations here. A lot of kids playing in the sandpit here. Fantastic fireworks coming down just over our helicopter. Not sure I'd want to be flying a helicopter in the middle of fireworks, but our helicopter man is clearly a madman. So here we go. The end of the session. And in GT3, first position is Steve Hughes. Huge shout out for winning another race. This will give him his 10 seconds of penalty for the final race of the season, which will be in about a month's time. Huge shout out to Coleman Corkery, who's come second in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and Ollie Venner, who came third, could have snatched an impressive second but didn't quite manage it. Nicholas Alvarado then fourth, with Martin Roundtree winning the amateur split with 5th overall, and Daniel Terry winning silver with 6th overall. Maciej Markowski in 7th, Nicholas Norberg in 8th, Andrew Hearn 9th, and Benjamin Jagnow 10th. The second position in AM, with Michael Lewick down in 12th, the last podium sitter for AM. GT4 is a bit more well organised, with Ryan Ware winning a comfortable race from Menno de Ridder, who almost threw away his second place near the end of the race, but managed to take it back from Jose Martins. Daniel Durrett and Victor Yanba rounding out Pro, with Julio Rodriguez the first of AM, Daniel Bradford and Adam Raynor with a podium there, and David Wirch coming last position in GT4. How was that race, Julian? You enjoy it?
It was definitely, most of the time it was action-packed, which is something that you can hope for.
Absolutely,
for many multi-class races.
Absolutely. Don't always manage to get so much, but thank you all for coming and watching with us. Thank you to everyone who has followed, all of the new guys. We had a load of followers, we had a couple of subscribes, so thank you very much for you guys as well. It's been great being here for this penultimate round of Solo Endurance at the International Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. We are now going to finish off. Remember, sign up in the chat. We'll give you the link to our Discord where you can come read the welcome messages, and in there it will tell you exactly how to sign up to get an invite to SGP, and even if you're already on SGP, to get an invite to the ACCSS channel on SGP. We are a rookie and backbarker community, so if you are fast boy out there, if you think Chris Meadows, who was in this race, said it very well earlier. If you worry that you might be too fast, you probably are. But come around and hang out with us. Maybe join some community races, like the 1 hour of Donington that we will be doing later today. See how things are going. We've obviously got the 6 hours endurance race coming up at Silverstone in a couple of weeks. And then the next championship series starting in a few more. So, any last words before we end, Julian? No? Great. Absolutely perfect. So, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you hang around. If you hang around to the end, we'll try and raid someone. Hit that raid button, and we'll send some love to someone else streaming Assetto Corsa Competizione. Oh, has Mr. Git just started his stream? Mr. Git is a perfect person to raid. Another guy who's hosting on SGP. So, thank you very much, guys. Hit that raid button, and let's go enjoy some Mr. Git for the rest of the day.